The white-haired man asks if the lady is offering to sleep in the same bed with the girl who may have come for his soul. He tells Nadia Balazit not to be mistaken, because he will never have anything to do with Balazit's daughter. The guy angrily tells the lady this, and then leaves, slamming the door. Nadia tells Glenn to wait. It is hard and painful for a pampered child to hear such cold words, but for the main character, it is a great happiness. She was so happy, the girl thanked the Marquise and asked him to keep his word. Nadia was an illegitimate child of the Balazit family. She had a very private life. The girl's sister took out all her anger and pain on her. The woman constantly mocked and humiliated her. The father constantly told the girl that she was doing all this for the family. The daughter was his puppet, whom he used in every possible way for the sake of the family. The main character's death was caused by her own fiancé. God must have thought her life was pathetic too. When the lady opened her eyes again, she returned to one of the days when she was 20. The girls gave her a new, second life. This time she plans to destroy everyone who brought her to this. Nadia promises herself that she will live only for revenge. To begin with, pretending to be madly in love, she marries the Balazit family's longtime enemy, the Marquise of Winterfeld from the north. The girl thinks that since she is the daughter of his enemy, of course Glenn could not truly fall in love with her. The main character thought that everything turned out as she planned. Now the main character remembers how she walked along the corridor with her fiancé by the arm. The girl twisted her leg, and the guy helped her get there. The girl was worried about the pain in her leg, but something worried her more, and that was her husband, who was too close. In Nadia's head, moments are running through her mind when the Marquise was kind to her, and the girl assumes that the guy might have become interested in her. The great war between the kingdom and the demons, which lasted for many years, ended with the victory of the kingdom thanks to the efforts of one hero. People welcomed the savior who put an end to this war, and his name is Jiho. There is a more beautiful description for him: a warrior from another world, a dragon slayer, and also the groom of the abandoned woman from the Duchy of Balazit. When the girl married Lord Jiho, she didn't look very happy. Their marriage was concluded before Jiho became a hero. That's how the whole tragedy began. But suddenly, she had a chance to gain her father's respect. He proposed his daughter to marry Jiho. Back then, Jiho was a mercenary who was summoned from another world to protect the kingdom. His growth rate was so fast that it was frightening. Duke Balazit was sure that if he tied him to his daughter, it would definitely work in his favor. So he entered into a fictitious marriage with Nadia, and they both became pawns of Balazit. When they stood together, the main character asked the guy if he was okay. The same one, after a moment of silence, replied that he would definitely succeed and no one would dare to ignore him. Even though they were forced to marry, Nadia still had a glimmer of hope that one day they would be able to live as an ordinary husband and wife, until she fell into a trap. The golden-haired lady came to the prison cell. She opened the door and asked what happened to her sister. Nadia insisted that there was a misunderstanding and she could explain everything. The girl asked to call Jiho. The sister apologizes and says that Lord Jiho will never come. The main character did not understand what her interlocutor was saying, but she continued to talk. She said that since the time when Nadia just married him, everything has changed dramatically. After all, now he has become the most important person in this country, and his wife cannot be someone like her sister. The father, his daughter, and the hero of the country were discussing how to get rid of Nadia. One of them insisted that there was only one way: to give the girl alcohol at the upcoming banquet. Usually, she is very careful, so it is necessary to add medicine so that she gets drunk. After that, they planned to put a hired man on her, and when she woke up, they would call people. The more witnesses, the better. When this happened, people immediately began to downplay this splash. They said that it was very indecent, and it was immediately obvious from the girl that she was the daughter of a concubine. They claimed that this was shameless. The stepsister asks the female lead if she knew that Lord Jiho had suggested this idea. Come to think of it, he never visited Nadia after that incident. The girl thought it was because he was disappointed in her, but in fact, he had planned everything himself. Even marrying her, the daughter of a concubine, he must have considered it discrimination against him. If the Lord had simply proposed a divorce, the main character would not have objected, because she was a simple pamphlet, and it was rather stupid to hope for anything. Her half-sister claims that his reputation would have suffered, because he was a hero of the war. Nadia asks if her sister came because she felt sorry for him. Now the guy has become a hero because of that. Karine does not let the girl finish her sentence and claims that she can say whatever she wants. This is her last chance, because this is all that is left for her. The golden-haired woman claps her hands and asks who will accept the one who was abandoned by her husband because of her affair with another man. Who can? The girl is an illegitimate child and will not be able to marry anyone except a simple worker. Therefore, she will help her sister only once. She says that her father wanted to let her stay, but Nadia decided to commit suicide out of shame. Two men attack the girl and try to put her into eternal sleep. The golden-haired lady claims that once the main character's name is tarnished by her shameless act, she will be remembered as a girl who knows the feeling of shame. Nadia thinks that she does not want to say goodbye to her life. Is she really going to end up like this? All her life, she did as her father said, was obedient. As a child, she always looked at her stepmother's reaction. She could not even breathe without her permission. Stepsister took away all the good things from her. And now the golden-haired lady bids farewell to her sister and says with a fake smile that she will miss her. In the end, the girl ended her life after living only 23 years. The main character thought that everything would end like this. But when she opened her eyes, she returned to one of the days when she was 20. Nadia noticed that there was no rope around her neck and wondered how she could have survived. In her dark mind, she definitely felt how the dark end of her life was enveloping her body. But the girl woke up completely healthy in her room, and everyone here looked the same as they did 3 years ago. She had another chance. A chance to take revenge on her selfish fiancé, her sister who laughed while she was being killed, and her father who used her and then got rid of her like some kind of trash. The main character stands near the mirror and thinks what other people would choose if they were given a second chance. Maybe they would want to live for love or live long in full health. The girl, after thinking a little, chooses revenge. The maid comes into Nadia's room and says that when she woke up, she should have rung the bell right away. Because of the brunette, she couldn't clean the room. She sees the girl touching her reflection in the mirror and says that if she touches the mirror with her hands, there will be stains on it. The maid pushes the main character away and starts wiping the mirror and angrily reproaching her mistress that she doesn't even know the simplest thing. Nadia was worried that it could all be a dream, but the girl really did return to the past somehow, because this maid was responsible for the cleanliness of her room before Karine killed her 3 years ago. In addition, on the day of the banquet, when the main character was captured, she slipped alcohol to her on Karine's orders. She drank it and lost consciousness. This is too suspicious to be called a coincidence. At that time, Nadia did not understand that this trap was deceived by the servant, but now everything is different. She will not fall for it again. She asked what kind of expression her mistress had on her face, whether she wanted to tell her something. The brunette thanks her for always cleaning her room and informs her that she will be leaving. The maid notices that the atmosphere has changed somehow. When Nadia leaves her room into the hallway, she is met by a maid. She claims that His Majesty the King has come to see the Duke, and the lady needs to prepare to meet His Majesty. The main character does not understand why the king has come to see her father. The girl says that it is just in time, and she will soon be ready. Nadia meets her father and claims that he called her. The Duke says that his daughter is very late. The girl says that she was getting ready in a hurry. She realizes that her father looks at her as if she were some kind of non-entity. In the past, she was afraid of this look and meekly submitted, trembling with fear. Such ceremonies are a long-standing tradition. At them, a married girl places a laurel wreath on the hero for whom the ceremony is being held. In other words, it is a declaration of love. The problem is that at this ceremony, one of those who receives the honor is a northerner, which means he is the worst enemy of the South. The girl understands that this is probably why the king wants to shift the focus to something else, allowing her to give the wreath to Jiho. They want to bind the lord to her through marriage. Even if the main character refuses, her father will not listen, but she needs a chance to free herself from her father and lead Jiho. The Duke and his daughter enter the room. The king insists that he was waiting for him, and the Duke must know why he came to him. The man asks how he could know, since he does not have the ability to read minds. His Majesty comes to the topic and says that the Kalai Expeditionary Force demanded a triumphal ceremony. His interlocutor says that they deserve it, and it is worth doing as they ask. Kroll slams his hand on the table, causing tea to spill on the floor, and claims that the problem is not that. But who is in this force? One of the leaders with the greatest merits is their worst enemy from the north, the Marquis of Winterfell. At this ceremony, he will receive much attention. Then the northerners may think too much of themselves. His Highness asks how one can speak so calmly of such things. The Duke claims that he doesn't have to worry about it, because he will shift the focus of the ceremony to something else. He has a plan to tie the hands of the northerners. The king immediately asks Togo to tell him about it quickly. The main character is surprised how the man took everything her father said seriously, without hesitation. No wonder the northerners are unhappy. The Duke claims that he will bind the Marquise in marriage. The king must use his authority and order him to marry. His bride must be the daughter of a noble from the south. Then they can prevent him from allying with someone from the north. Hearing this, Nadia recalled that after she and Li Jiho became husband and wife, as a reward for the success of the expedition, the Marquis of Winterfell also got married. Of course, his bride was a girl from the family that his father introduced to the king. According to rumors, she cried constantly because of the Duke's cruelty and eventually ran away. The main character felt sorry for the girl, who became just a puppet of her father's plans. The brunette realizes that if she is this girl now, she will be able to avoid marriage with the Lord and revenge. But she cannot be reckless. It is too early to talk about it. Exist claims that this is a good idea and asks who will voluntarily give him their daughter. The Duke assumes that the king does not believe in the loyalty of his servants. For the sake of the country, people will certainly give up their daughter. Nadia realizes that this is her chance. She turns to His Highness and asks for forgiveness. The girl says that she would like to tell him something. The king allows the main character to speak. Her father asks how she dares to butt into the conversation. But the girl ignores this and says that if they need someone who will have to go to the enemy camp in the north, then she can do it. The Duke is a little taken aback by this answer. He clenches his fist. Nadia says that she is from the Balazit family, who have served His Majesty all their lives, and therefore deserves the most trust. She asks to be allowed to marry an enemy for the sake of the king and the well-being of their country. In her thoughts, the girl apologizes to her father for no longer being a pawn in his hands. His Highness repeats the girl's words that she is going to marry the Marquis of Winterfell. The Duke claims that his daughter does not seem to know what she is talking about and must not know what his relationship is with Winterfell. His Highness says that it is a laudable decision, but as the girl's father has said, their families are sworn enemies. Forcing someone else to marry Nadia would be much easier than marrying her to him. The bad Marquis of Winterfell may not take her as his wife. Still, the girl says she has a wonderful idea. Nadia replies that it is so. At this ceremony, she will present the laurel wreath to the Marquis of Winterfell. Duke. Answer that his daughter is stupid and ask if she thinks that he will so easily accept this wreath from her. The main character claims that no one has ever refused a laurel wreath. The father puts his hand on his head and replies that they have already planned for the girl to give the wreath to Li Jiho. The main character says that people will quickly forget about his merits and asks if he will really decide to destroy with his own hands everything he has strived for, so he will accept the wreath, and then. The father does not let the brunette finish her sentence and says that His Majesty can influence him so that he cannot refuse. Then he will have no choice. The daughter claims that this is true and tells His Majesty to insist on the marriage under the pretext of the official's daughter's plea. Then he will become a magnanimous ruler who only wants to make the noble lady's love come true. The king says that this is a wicked plan, but very convincingly. Still, he is a little worried, because he must send the Duke's daughter to the enemy camp, so he decides to first ask the Duke what he thinks about it. The father claims that he did not know that his daughter had such a wonderful plan, and decides that at this ceremony his daughter will present the wreath to the Marquise of Winterfell. But judging by the way he clasps his hands on his knees, one can understand that he does not want this. After His Highness left, Karine claims that she knew that her sister was stupid, but she didn't think that she was that stupid, because she did all this knowing who this Marquise was, which means she was going to voluntarily go north, even knowing that he was their enemy. The younger sister asks her father to say something, but he tells her to stop and says that it is none of her business. He tells Nadia to explain what she was thinking. When she suggested this, he made it clear what her role was. The man asks if his daughter dared to disobey an order. Although the main character has received His Majesty's permission, if she cannot convince her father, she will lose again, so she must make the right move. The girl claims that she has no desire to marry a stranger whose origin is unknown, although half, but the blood of Balazit flows in her. The Duke asks if it is only because of this, because of her unnecessary pride, they must now give all the honor to the Marquise of Winterfell. The brunette is scared, but understands that she does not want to live as a pawn anymore. She claims that her father should allow him to experience this for just a moment. The daughter asks if it is more important to prevent a possible rebellion, which is why they tried to divert people's attention from the ceremony. The father asks how she found out. The girl understands that she has hit the nail on the head. The reason why the father reacts so sharply to the glory of the Northerners is that the imperial family is now, without exaggeration, a puppet of the Duchy of Balazit. In other words, this is exactly what the father has been trying to achieve for so long. He has the king himself in his hands, but at the same time, he is in the most vulnerable position. There have been many cases when, in such a turbulent time as now, the heads of the province have started a rebellion. That is why the father is worried. The Marquise threatens his position. The main character realizes that she must dig deeper into what he fears. She claims that even if not at this ceremony, they will still meet in secret. Whoever gets all the glory must watch them, and this ceremony is the best place for it. They will give water to the animal that thirsts for water and put a collar on it. The Duke is interested in such a story. Nadia continues to say that if she marries the Marquis of Winterfell, they will be able to learn about changes in the north faster. Thanks to the sacrifice of the brunette, they will be able to strengthen their positions. The girl asks her father to allow her to do this for the sake of their family. The man thinks that this really does make sense. This expedition did not go as he expected. Because of the success of the Northerners, they are forced to hold a ceremony. But if Nadia goes north as Winterfell's consort, they will be able to learn of their movements more quickly. It is a good chance to place a spy in his entourage. The Duke agrees with his daughter and says that they will do as she wishes. Karine did not expect such an answer. She asks her father if he really will send her sister to the north, and asks what about Lord Jiho, because he wanted to give Nadia to him. The man tells his daughter to be quiet. He can find him a new bride. The Duke turns to his older sister and asks what she really wants. He knows very well that the girl is not doing this for his sake, and asks what she wants to get for her sacrifice. The main character understands that she has been able to deceive him so far. After such a tense conversation, the main character goes out into the corridor. The deal was successful. The very first day she returned to the past, she managed to avoid marriage with Jiho. Nadia looks out the window and sees a maid screaming that she is guilty and begs to believe her. The head maid orders her to be quiet and asks how she dared to touch her mistress's things. The maid, captured by the knights, looks at her mistress and screams that she did not steal anything. She begs the main character to do something, but the brunette doesn't seem too worried about it, because it was she who set up the maid. In the morning, the main character took the jewelry from the box and attached it to the maid's dress. She understands that the puppet Karine was kicked out. She was given a chance to cope with everything on her own. Although Nadia is still far from revenge, she needs to write out further plans in detail. While she was making plans on how to destroy the Duchy of Balazit, it was time for the ceremony. The servant informs the Marquise that the preparations for the ceremony are complete and asks him to lead the detachment because they are leaving. Flower petals were flying everywhere as part of the congratulations to the detachment on their victory. Watching the soldiers march in formation, the people joyfully greeted them. The main character understands that everything is exactly the same as in her past life, starting from the clothes and jewelry that she is wearing now, ending with the places where everyone is sitting. If the girl had not interfered, everything would have gone as in her past life. The younger sister looks at her jewelry in Nadia's hands and asks what her sister will do if a crack appears on her pendant. She claims that she borrowed it because it was her father's order that once the ceremony was over, the girl should put it back. The main character thinks about how Karine claimed that she borrowed her mother's jewelry, but she does not have the strength to answer her. Previously, the brunette always tried to please her, but now she does not care about her younger sister, because she will definitely run away from there. The Duke raises his hand and orders them to stop. Because the troop will arrive soon, he tells his daughter to get ready, try not to screw up, and hand the wreath to Glen of Winterfell with dignity. There was only one thing that distinguished the ceremony from the past life from today's. The main character to whom she hands the wreath was the Marquis Glen of Winterfell. The king has declared that he will grant glory to the knights for their deeds. They reply that it is an honor for them. His Highness claims to have heard that Winterfell's services were especially high in this expedition. It warms his heart to hear this. The Marquis apologizes and says that the rumors are exaggerated. The king tells him to cast aside modesty. Looking at him, he remembers the previous ruler of Winterfell. He was also an outstanding knight. The man claims that Glyan Winterfell's loyalty is worthy of praise, and if his father, chained to his bed, learned of his exploits, he would certainly be pleased. The Marquis does not answer. The main character understands that the most painful topic for the Marquis of Winterfell is connected with his father, but His Highness still spoke about it. The king says that he should reward the boy's family for their loyalty, but he says that it is enough for them that His Highness knows about it. The ruler says that young people are very serious at this time. By order of the king, the official ceremony began. His Highness announced that today they were all gathered here to congratulate the heroes on their victory in the Kalia expedition. Immediately after this, the greeting of families began, and the Duke of Balazit was the first to meet the Marquis of Glen. He congratulated the young lord of Winterfell and extended his hand. The boy replied that he had inherited the title and was now a marquis. Glen claims that if the Duke's memory fails him, he should leave his post and rest. The man moves his hand back a little and says that he was mistaken, but even though Glen became a marquis at such a young age, he still lacks a lot. Glen asks what could be difficult for a man in his prime. The Duke says that the guy is not really like the previous marquis in his ardor. Then he gasps and says that we are talking about a man who had an accident and he is truly sorry. It is time to hand over the gifts prepared for the heroes. Nadia comes out with a bouquet and is happy that it is finally her turn. The girl holds the wreath in her thin hands and heads towards the knights. The Marquis understands why his enemy happily agreed to hold the ceremony. He decided to change the essence of the ceremony. Then, the owner of that wreath must be Jiho. After all, everyone knows that her father supports him. Glen thinks that originally this ceremony was only for himself, so he should just let it go quietly. Come to think of it, this expedition took longer than he thought. The Marquis guesses that there must be a lot of work back home. It would be nice if they paid them enough as a reward. Glen opens his eyes and sees Nadia with a laurel wreath in front of him. He does not understand why Balazit's daughter is standing in front of him. He thinks that the girl is nervous because of the large number of people. Marquis leans towards the female lead and whispers that she made a mistake due to excitement. He points his finger at the black-haired guy standing behind him, claiming that it is Jiho. Glen suggests that the girl slowly walk in that direction, and everyone will turn a blind eye to her small mistake due to excitement. But Nadia doesn't budge. She claims she wasn't mistaken. The Marquis asks the girl what she's talking about. The brunette says that the Marquis of Winterfell has been on her mind for a long time. She hands the guy a laurel wreath and asks him to accept it. The crowd starts gossiping, but the girl continues to say that she fell in love with Glen at first sight. as soon as she saw and felt that he was the one who could take care of her for the rest of her life. The head of Winterfell did not expect this at all. He leans towards the lady and asks if she knows what it means when an adult girl hands a wreath to a man. The main character understands that the guy is much ruder than they say about him. Nadia assures that she knows, and now she confesses her love. His Majesty turns to the Marquis of Winterfell. He claims that the beautiful lady is waiting and asks why the guy is silent. Glenn says he doesn't deserve this wreath, and he can't accept it. He has no idea what's going on, but the guy doesn't like it. He can't fall for it. The main character was prepared for such a reaction, because he will not accept it so easily. She apologizes to the Marquis in advance, and thinks that it will also be beneficial for him to marry her. The girl understands that there is nothing to be done, and she will have to push a little. The brunette grabs the man by the sleeve and says that if he is worried that she is the daughter of a concubine, he can just accept the wreath and not worry about her. Nadia is planned to first arouse pity among the people, and she succeeds. The Marquise turns to the main character and asks what she is talking about. But the pillars are immediately heard indignant, why the Marquise does not accept the wreath. The commoners claim that he makes the young lady disgrace herself. They ask if he is making up for the anger at this young lady because of disagreements with the Duke. The people call on the guy to accept the sincere love of Lady Balazit. The Marquis understands that his enemies wanted to destroy the ceremony with his own hands. The guy grabs the bouquet and claims that this is a long conversation and they will continue later. He turns around and leaves with a laurel wreath. The main character understands that she succeeded. She sighs with relief because she was able to change the future. The Duke and his daughters go to the carriage. He claims that Nadia is great. It was worth it. To see Glenn's confused face, he has no choice but to accept the offer. The eldest daughter smiles and replies that he does not have to thank her. Suddenly, someone's scream is heard. It's Lord Jiho. He screams that he urgently needs to talk to the Duke. The man asks what's wrong and claims that the guy must be tired after all this time. He wonders why the Lord doesn't go and rest. Jiho says that he urgently needs to ask the Duke something. The guy heard that Lady Nadia was supposed to give him a wreath at today's ceremony and asks what happened. The main character looks at her father and wonders if he told him in advance. The Duke understands what the guy is talking about and claims that it happened because it was urgent, so he could not inform Jiho. The man apologizes and says that he will find a more suitable match for the Lord, so he should not be upset. Well, the guy cries out that he did not come to the man to look for a new bride. He wants to know why the Duke changed his plans. The blonde replies that there was a reason, and this is not the place to talk about it. The Lord cries out, "Does the Duke think this is too much?" Before he joined the army, a similar incident happened. The father screams, pointing at the boy, "What does he want now?" Because the ceremony has already taken place. The Lord is a little scared. The Duke, having calmed down, puts his hand on his shoulder and says that in any case, it is his mistake, because he did not warn Jiho. He asks Togo to believe that he will make amends and compensate for this. The blonde asks if the boy understands what he is talking about. The Lord says that he understands and agrees with the man. After that, the Duke climbs into the carriage and calls his daughters. The main character notices the look of her husband in a past life. The girl does not understand why he has such an expression on his face, although now she does not care. Now she does not care, because the first one who betrayed her was he. The Marquis returned to his mansion. Now he is sitting at his desk and thinking about something. He sighs. The servant turns to his master and says that he heard that everyone at the market is talking about the ceremony that took place. A lady who was rarely seen confessed her love to the Marquis. The guy assures that his master must somehow react to this, otherwise he will be forced to marry. Glenn, closing his eyes, covering his face with his hand, and saying that it is too late, he orders his servant to read the letter lying on the table. The guy notices that this letter is from the royal family. After reading it, the servant understands that although it is veiled, they are telling the Marquis to marry. Glenn says that this is true, and if he continues to refuse, they will regard it as disobedience to the king's order. The guy screams that this is too much and asks why they are doing this to his master. "Because take this expedition," the Marquis meekly agreed. What else do they need? The servant claims that besides, their army lands pay taxes steadily, but even so, the government still doubts Glenn. The Marquis assumes that it was the Duke of Balazit who did this, because he wants to catch him in rebellion. The northern territory where Winterfell is located was not always part of the kingdom. It was subjugated 100 years ago. The north and the south, which differed both in culture and in many other ways, could not easily befriend each other. The northern army protected the border in the north from monsters, which ensured safety and fertility to the south. But the southerners, looking at this, considered the northerners wild and scary. So the previous Marquis and Marchioness of Winterfell got into an accident because of someone's conspiracy, and the Duke of Balazit is the one most under suspicion. From there, the Duke hands the Marquis of Winterfell a laurel wreath. Glenn says that there are two reasons why they want this marriage to happen. First, to prevent the Northerners from creating an alliance through marriage. And secondly, send spies into the enemy camp. The servant says that this is a great way to find out about a possible rebellion before anyone else. And also Lord Lee Jiho. According to the people at the ceremony, Lady Nadia was supposed to give the wreath to him. They say he was terribly surprised by what happened. Glenn asks if it was meant for him. The servant replies that yes, he also heard that Lady Nadia and Lord Lee Jiho secretly promised to unite hearts and lives. It seems that the plan regarding Lord Jiho was hastily changed. I remember they didn't tell me about it. The Marquis looks at the laurel wreath and realizes that he was right about it being for the brunette. He claims that he will have to do as His Majesty wants, otherwise they will have a good reason to attack. The servant says that the girl is the Duke's daughter. Glenn tells the guy not to worry, because no matter how much you look at it, Nadia is just a beautiful daughter of a duke. She will not be able to do anything on foreign soil without a single ally. He doubts that the girl will endure the cold attitude of the servants for at least a week, because it cannot be otherwise. She herself will want to return home, and the Marquise will have nothing to do with it. As a result, the Winterfell and Balazit families were united. The wedding was held in Winterfell and the betrothal in the capital. After they quickly sorted out these minor matters, a banquet was held at Balazit Manor to celebrate the new family. The nobles who had mocked the main character continued to gossip and said that she had neither shame nor conscience. The girl's father enjoyed what was happening, but now Nadia had no time to pay attention to them. The brunette invited the Marquise to dance. She must correspond to the image of a noblewoman in love, who, burning with love, looks at only one person. The girl felt something at the ceremony. The Marquis of Winterfell became even more wary of the Balazit family. The main character realizes that she first needs to show him that she is not dangerous. Glenn bends the girl over in the dance and asks what she is thinking about. But Nadia is not at a loss and says that she thought how handsome Glenn is. The Marquis says that the girl calls him by his name, although they are not close at all. He tells the girl to call him Marquis of Winterfell. The main character agrees, but at the end, she specifically adds Glenn. The guy lets go of the girl's hands and says that he even wonders if she will be able to smile as brightly in the north. He leaves the main character alone, and everyone around starts gossiping. Someone says that the girl is a poor thing and asks why she fell in love with a northerner. Others say that she can't lift her head from shame. Nadia is happy. The guy has finally left. Vienna can no longer force a smile. The brunette goes out onto the balcony and thinks how difficult it is. Her whole body is cramping from forcing herself to smile all day. Someone calls the main character. It's Lee Jiho. He finally found a girl. Nadia asks what's wrong and wonders why he came. The guy claims that he came because he wants to ask about something. The brunette asks what he wants to ask, but she has nothing else to tell the Lord. The guy asks if she really hates marriage with him so much. The main character did not expect such a question. The guy continues and asks if it is better for the girl to endure humiliation and sidelong glances, to go to the very center of the enemy camp, than to be with him. Nadia claims that she understands what the brunette is talking about, because from the very beginning it was not clearly decided that they would get married. Lee Jiho says that the Duke has already told him everything. The plans changed at the girl's request. Brown-haired, you answer that. Then she has nothing more to say, but the Lord does not retreat. He asks if he is really unworthy of hearing the truth, and therefore only that he is an outsider, and his origin is unknown. Nadia doesn't understand what's wrong with him, because he was the one who betrayed her first. She, clenching her fists, says that the Lord himself wasn't happy about their marriage. The guy asks when he said that, but the brown-haired woman says that she's not a fool. Jiho was worried about being discriminated against because of his origin, and asks if that's why he wanted to marry a girl from a noble family. Nadia claims that she is just an abandoned woman, and if the guys proposed to marry Karine, he would not doubt for a second. Jiho is surprised by such a question and does not answer. As the brunette thought, he cannot answer anything, which means that Karine's words were true. What was the girl waiting for? The lady says that they are not suited to each other, so she suggests that they each go their separate ways. She leaves the Lord alone. The girl came to the garden. She thinks that at least here she can be alone, but at that very moment she hears someone's steps. It turns out to be Karine. She asks if they can talk. The main character wonders why her sister came here, and in her thoughts she is upset that she cannot be alone for a minute. The golden-haired girl pokes her sister in the forehead and asks why she follows a man around and disgraces their family. She doesn't think Karine will just tolerate it. The lady claims that as a true daughter of the family, she is obliged to warn Nadia. She asks if she was jealous that her father only cares about his younger sister, and if she wanted to get his attention, so she did it. Karine calls her sister a poor thing and claims that no matter how hard she tries, she will still remain a pawn. The brunette smirks and agrees with her sister. She asks if Karine has thought that they are not so different. She failed to marry Lord Jiho, so now it is the golden-haired lady's turn. Younger sister angrily attacks Nadia and claims that she is the daughter of the Duchess. The brunette asks if her sister still believes her father, because for him, his daughter is just a means to an end. Karine furiously asks how she dares to classify her as such scum and whether she is laughing at her now. The girl threatens to tell her father everything, but Nadia's gaze is directed at Karine's neck, where her mother's necklace hangs. The younger sister notices that the girl is looking at her mother's jewelry. She takes it off and asks if this is the jewelry that Nadia's mother got from her father. The golden-haired lady claims that he gave it to her because he thought she would give birth to a son. A girl appeared, and the brown-haired girl did not deserve it. She asks if the girl wants to take it. If so, let her kneel down and beg. Karine orders to repeat after her the words that the girl is sorry that she behaved so recklessly towards her and will never irritate her younger sister again. The golden-haired lady claims that if she begs convincingly, she will forgive, or just get rid of him, because she has many such trinkets. She can throw one away. She began to hold her hand with the necklace over the pond. The main character is furious. Her sister asks if she wants to. If nothing can be done, the girl is already preparing to throw the necklace into the pond. But the brunette stops her and asks if her sister will give it to her if she kneels. The sister assures that she will. She thinks that Nadia has no choice. Such a quiet girl suddenly begins to show herself and irritate her. Now she will learn a lesson. In any case, the golden-haired lady is not going to return the jewelry. She orders the main character to quickly kneel, because she is generous if you ask nicely. The brunette, without wasting time, throws her sister into the pond, even in shock, and furiously screams whether Nadia has gone crazy and what the hell she is doing, because she does not think that Karine will let her get away with it. The main character asks what will happen if he does not let her go. She holds the jewelry in her hands and claims that the golden-haired lady would not have returned it, no matter how much she begged. In a past life, something similar happened. Then the brunette unquestioningly obeyed her sister. The new result was that she was never able to return the necklace. The main character says that she thought about this a lot in her childhood. Where did her sisters have so much hatred towards her? She was wondering if Karine would recognize her as her sister if she did as she said. But she realized that the younger sister hates her for no reason. So now she gave Karine a real reason to hate her. The golden-haired lady does not recognize her sister. In her thoughts, she wonders if this is really the Nadia she knew. The girl gets goosebumps. Her sister is like a different person. People came running to the screams. They started shouting that the person was in the water and they needed to quickly bring something to cover her. One of the guys puts his jacket on the lady and asks if she is okay. The Duke runs out into the street and asks what the noise his daughters are making in the middle of the night is about. Karine immediately throws herself into her father's arms with tears in her eyes. She screams that it's all that dirty girl and points to Nadia. She thinks that her sister has come to an end. The Duke asks if it is true. Karine is sure that the girls will not leave because she has evidence. But the main character only laughs at such words. She covers her mouth with her hands so that no one notices. The brunette turns to her sister and says that despite all her hatred, how can she lie like that? She did not listen to her and still went to the edge, and she said that it was dangerous there. Nadia claims that she was only trying to pull her out of there and asks if her sister is afraid that they will think badly of her, but her lie disgraces their family more. The golden-haired lady claims that it was Nadia. Her sister threatened her with her mother's necklace, and the girl pushed her. Some of the people start whispering about threats. They say that since she threatened with a necklace, it means she has a bad character. They ponder why the family heirloom of the mother of the first daughter is with the second, and wonder if she is loved more in the duchy. Karine says that this is not so, and tries to justify himself. But the Duke puts his hand on her shoulder and says that she is cold. She had better go back to the restroom before she catches a cold. He thinks that if he leaves this matter, rumors will spread among the rumors. The golden-haired lady is indignant that this is unfair. She asks to listen to her, but now it doesn't matter to her, because she returned her mother's necklace, and now she can calmly leave this place. The Marquis and his knights are in the forest, near the Winterfell lands. One of the knights calls his master. Glenn claims that he is too noisy and should return to his place. Fabian tells the Marquis not to be like that. He will only ask a few things and return. Although this is a figurative question. The servant asks if the lady's confession was not sincere, and the boy immediately kicks his servant. The Marquis says that if the boy is going to continue talking such nonsense, then he should get lost. Fabian says that he also knows that she is deceiving his master, but looking at her face during the ceremony, it seemed to him that she was sincere, and the boy is not particularly sure that she was lying. Glenn tells his servant not to trust appearances. Nadia is the daughter of a duke. She can stab him in the back at any moment. He suggests Fabian just look at her devotion. He wonders if it is really to help their family in difficult times, or if the girl plans to just spy on them. The knight understands that his master is right. The Marquis says that if the guy understood, then let him return to his place, because he is the girl's guard and must be careful. If she has a problem, it will become a headache. Fabian returns to the carriage. He thinks that he is glad he is with her after hearing this. This worries him even more. The main character looks out of the carriage and tells her escort that she wanted to talk to him, but the knight disappeared, so she had to wait. Fabian almost faints from this. He says that he had a small matter, and he himself hopes that the girl did not hear their conversation. Nadia says that she heard that the guy appointed her as a guard and asks what his name is. The servant says that his name is Fabian Knox. The brunette compliments him, saying that it is a beautiful name. The guy looks away and thanks his mistress. The girl looks at Fabian and claims that, as she thought, the guy is awkward with her. The knight realizes he was too obvious. The main character claims that she understands, because everyone knows that the Balazit and Winterfell families are enemies. Nadia assures that her feelings for the Marquis are real. Fabian no longer knows who to believe. He remembers Glenn's words about not judging by appearances. The knight waves his hands and says that he is simply very shy. The guy asks if his mistress's mother is in the north for the first time, and offers to tell about the north while they are driving. The brunette thanks Fabian. She was bored. The main character thinks what a relief it is. It seems she managed to break through the barrier of the younger knight. After the story, Nadia falls asleep. The girl wakes up from a knock on the window. Opening the window, she sees her knight. He invites the lady to go out for a while, because they arrived at the Winterfell mansion. But the main character does not let her finish the sentence and says that everything is fine. She understands. The maid is shocked by such an answer. She asks again what her mistress said. Nadia argues that as long as she is with Glenn, it doesn't matter what the size of the wedding is. She smiles warmly and says that besides, she is now a marchioness, so she must think about her people. A woman addresses the brunette. She says that since the girl thinks so, she can be calm. The lady hopes that Nadia will always think so. The main character greets Lady Grace. Grace Ground is Glen Winterfell's aunt. The previous marchioness has already died, and the previous marquise is bedridden, so now she is the oldest lady in this family. The woman claims that this dress suits Nadia very well. She says that when Glen sees her, who will go crazy? The main character thanks the lady and says that she would be glad. The lady with silver hair approaches the girl and takes a lock of her hair in her hand. She tells Nadia that because of her father, Glen is even rude to her, but assures her that there is nothing to worry about because the brunette is so beautiful that in time Glen will open his heart to her. The lady says that she will help, and the main character needs to focus only on opening his soul. The lady knows what the mistress wanted to tell her with these words. Grace knows that the Marquise has not yet recognized Nadia. The main character smiles warmly and says that she will remember this, after which Aunt Glenna says that it is time for her to go, and at parting asks if the girl knows what is most important in seduction. She suggests preparing well. The brunette can only think of one thing: the first wedding night. She thought that he would want to touch her, so she would refuse to spend the night together. But what if this man offered to stay together for the night? Now, the main character in a wedding dress is heading to her fiancé, but the girl can't stop thinking about the conversation with Mrs. Grace. She thought about it constantly. The thought that they could sleep together just wouldn't leave her head. The groom and the bride had to say their vows, but all that was on the girl's mind was whether they would sleep in the same room right after the wedding ceremony. Glen is asked if he takes Nadia Balazit as his wife and swears to love her forever. The Marquise answers yes. When Nadia asks if she takes Glen Winterfell as her husband, the girl continues to think whether the Marquise will want to stay in the same bed with her because he hates her very much. But what if he really wants this? What should she do then? The brunette did not expect this. When the main character is called a second time, she realizes what is happening and says yes. Then they are told to seal the oath with a kiss. The girl was thinking only about how they would share a room. The kiss completely flew out of her head. The brunette understands that the Marquis must be pretending that they are kissing. What kind of cohabitation can we talk about? But Glen kisses the girl for real, and they are declared husband and wife. Nadia is shocked because the Marquise really kissed her. That same evening, the brunette wanders around the room and doesn't know what to do or how to be. The girl is running out of time, and her fiancé will be arriving soon. She wonders if they will really sleep together. After all, he really kissed her. But the girl's thoughts are interrupted by Glen, who enters the room. Nadia understands that he really came. The girl says that she was waiting for him, but her thoughts are not calm. She thinks what to do and how to be, because she can no longer run away. The Marquis tells her not to be mistaken. He claims that he will never contact the daughter of the Duke of Balazit, and has come only to tell her about it personally. The main character asks her husband to wait, but he ignores her request and simply leaves. The maids notice that sobs are coming from their mistress's room. The girl says that her feelings are sincere. Why is Glen so cruel? Sitting on the floor in the room, she sighs with relief and thinks how good it is that he left. The main character in her thoughts hopes that he will never change his mind. The girl sees a plate with wine and snacks on the table. She remembers that she hasn't even eaten properly today. The brunette begins her meal. She notices that the dried beef is very tasty and the wine too. Then she decides to try the fruit. Having eaten her fill, Nadia goes to bed and thinks how good it is. There is nothing more to worry about, and the bed is so soft, it seems like she will fall asleep soon. The next day, the maids gossip among themselves. One of them asks if they heard about what happened yesterday. The master immediately left their mistress's room without staying there for even 5 minutes. He was very angry. The other one claims that she bet that he would not come to her at all. Another maid asks what happened next. The girl with the disposable hair assumes that most likely they had a fight, and Nadia should be ashamed now. Another maid comes up to them from behind and says that she heard the mistress crying for a long time. According to another maid, the mistress's servant, she looked like a girl in unrequited love who was rejected. When the maid came to the main character, she apologized and said that she could not sleep without alcohol. The servants thought she would act arrogantly, but the master could not do otherwise. The girls are about to leave the room and continue their work. The Marquis and two knights were watching all this from the corner. One of them tells his master that the maids must be made to keep their mouths shut. The second agrees and says that this must be done by any means necessary. Glenn says that there is no need to do this, you just need to close your eyes to it. He asks if the guys think that the maids will love her and what Nadia is doing now. The knight replies that she officially became a marquise, and shouldn't she be looking after the household? The Marquis asks if he says that the girl has fully started spying on them. He turns to Fabian and claims that he is her guard, and the boy asks if his master wants him to watch her. Glenn answers that this is so. The boy must watch if the brunette does anything suspicious. If she sends letters to her parents' house, the knight must always be near her and report everything to the Marquise. The main character asks if Glenn sent a knight to protect her. Fabian answers that there are attacks, and from this day on, he will take care of his mistress. Nadia wonders if the Marquise is angry that she is watching him. The girl folds her arms and, with a beaming smile on her face, says that she is very glad that her husband cares about her so much. The brunette says that the Marquise thought that the girl would be uncomfortable with strangers and sent Fabian. What a good man he is. The knight, with a strained smile, answers that everything is exactly so, but he came to watch Nadia, not to guard her, and the girl is so happy that he is even ashamed. The knight says that he will wait at the door, and his mistress can go about her business in peace. The main character understands that her fiancé has decided to watch her all day long. She needs to somehow convince him that she is not a spy. The girl asks the butler to bring the housekeeping book. Gordon obeys his mistress, and in a minute she is already sitting with it in her hands. She is clearly surprised. Nadia asks why they have so many debts. In her past life, she knew that the situation in Winterfell was not very good. This amount is already too much. The servant claims that this is a feature of the North. Every few years they are attacked by a wave of monsters. Their land is very depleted, so there are no resources, and no attractions either. Nadia asks if they don't get a reward from the king every year for killing monsters, and what the money goes towards. The butler replies that thanks to that money, they were able to hold out until today, and also recently, the Marquise took part in the Kalia expedition. The brunette claims that this is why they can no longer participate in expeditions. She did not even know that war requires so much money. The servant claims that they did not want to take part in this, but someone demanded that they fulfill their duty. Gordon realizes what he just said. The main character asks if he means someone like her father. The girl throws her head back in her chair and thinks that in any case she prepared a plan to make money. But she did not think that the amount of debt was so large. She is interested in how the Marquis of Winterfell paid off his debts in his past life. The butler claims that he has a good solution, because now she has also become part of the Winterfell family. He asks to be allowed to speak frankly, and I claim that such difficult times for her new family, if the girl uses the dowry to pay off debts, will she not help with this? The brunette thought why he so easily gave her the seal from the warehouse. It means he wants to test her, asking to resolve financial problems. Gordon asks if the Marquise would not be pleased if she helped. However, Nadia says that it is impossible. The butler asks his mistress to think again. The main character asks him to understand that she is not saying this because she does not want to help the Winterfell family. Looking at the expense book, it is clear that every year the debt is slowly growing. Earlier, the servant said that the reason is the peculiarity of the North. So the dowry of the Duke's daughter will not solve this issue in the long term. In the end, the debt will appear again and will grow. The butler doesn't know what to answer to this. After a couple of seconds, he tries to straighten up and asks if the situation for their lands isn't hopeless now. The brunette slaps her hand on the table and claims that they will correct the peculiarity of their territory. The servant does not understand what his mistress is talking about, and she begins to tell how to achieve this. When the knight returns to the Marquise, Glenn asks if his wife said she couldn't use a single coin from her dowry. Fabian claims that this is not true, repeating the words of the main character, that rather than pay off the debt right now, it is better to start increasing the dowry. The other knights say that the guy is naive and believes Nadia, because she only seems good. One of the knights cries out that, whatever the case, she said she would not give her dowry. Fabian says that the girl looked serious when she spoke about the financial situation of the lands. He asks his master if he is sick of trusting such a slow-witted person to spy on my wife. Another, pressing his colleague with his hand, says how poor their youngest is. Glenn tells them all to return to their places because they are making too much noise. The main character is walking along the corridor at this time. She sees that there are a lot of things to do. Cobwebs are hanging in the corners of the estate, and the statues are sprinkled. Someone's screams tear the brunette out of her thoughts. One man screams, "Doesn't the butler know how long they've been waiting?" Gordon tries to calm them down. Having gone down a little lower, the lady asks her servant what is going on here. One of the guests asks if this is the daughter of the Duke of Balazit. Nadia asks them to call her Marchioness of Winterfell. The man apologizes for being late and says he is Shylock. The other claims he is Wayne of the Northern Traders Alliance. The woman behind also introduces herself. She says her name is Katerina, and we are from the trading firm of Kreta. The main character says that they should leave formalities and say what they were talking about here. Shylock says that in that case, they can tell her something. He shouts for the lady to give them the money. The day of repayment of the funds borrowed by the Marquise will soon come. Nadia is shocked, but the guy continues to shout. He says that he heard the girl brought with her an impressive dowry. If she says that she will not be able to pay her debts this time, they will take the wind-shaded plain that was left as collateral. The main character, I understand that this is the only fertile land in this depleted territory. She remembered how the Marquis paid off his debts in his past life. He simply gave them this land. The girl asks, when the day of repayment of the debts will come, Gordon answers that it will happen in 3 months. The brunette understands that if the plain is taken away, the Winterfell family will become completely poor. No matter how powerful the army the Marquis had, or whether he had the finances, he would not be able to become the leader who united the North. Nadia asks to give them 2 more months. If they postpone the repayment of the debt, for 2 more months she will resolve this issue. Shylock says that he knows that the girl brought with her an impressive dowry and asks why she needs 2 extra months. Nadia confidently replies that she will use her dowry for business. The man asks what all this means and that instead of paying off debts, the lady is going to open a business. The Marchioness claims that the Winterfell family is closely connected to the merchants of the northern regions. It would be good if they would think of their long-standing friendship with them and help create a better future for Winterfell. She says that she will never forget their help. Of course, if the business fails, they will take back the land they left as collateral. The merchants understand that then they have nothing to lose. Shylock claps and claims that he admires the lady's wisdom. He is ready to give an answer right now, but he needs to discuss it with other merchants. He asks if the girl will wait. The main game and does not say that she is ready to wait as long as necessary. The merchant bows and thanks. He says that he will definitely give an answer that she will like. With an evil grin on his face, he leaves the estate. The man wonders if the business of the girl, who lived her whole life without knowing troubles, will be crowned with success. He is already making plans on how to take possession of the best land. Nadia sighs with relief because they are finally gone. The butler asks what business his mistress was talking about, because if they lose the plain, the lady assures Gordon that there is nothing to worry about. They will return the money as planned. The servant asks why the extra time. The girl replies that she just wanted to talk to him about it. She orders the butler to invite to the mansion everyone who wants to postpone the day of repayment of the debt. She will need to buy something from them. Gordon doesn't understand what his mistress wants to buy. But Nadia repeats that she wants to open a business. Not everyone can do a really important business. They have to show what will be received by someone who trusts them and is ready to wait. When the guests arrive at the estate, one of them asks if the business the girl was talking about is making herbal tea from thorny vines. The main character calmly says that this is exactly how it is, and she is confident of her success. The guests think what nonsense she is talking. The thorny vine is a grass that only the poor take. It has no value. It is an ordinary weed. Nadia asks if they could buy the herb for her in bulk. Wayne and Katerina don't trust this plan. The man says that the price of the herb is quite low, but if the girl wants to buy in market volumes, she will need some capital. And will she have it? The brunette claims that she plans to use her dowry. Wayne chokes on his tea when he hears that the girl is going to buy weeds with that money. He looks at the butler and thinks that it would be better if the girl bought dresses and jewelry. At least they could be resold. He notices that the butler does not dissuade his mistress. He seems to have already given in. When the Marchioness spoke so confidently last time, Wayne thought that she had a good plan, but he did not even think that she was so unreasonable. Katerina asks her to forgive her, but she thinks that such a business is not the best option. The main character asks why. The woman claims that the prickly lasagna has no value because there are many good herbs that can replace it. And besides, if you take into account the costs of transportation and storage, they will incur large losses. Nadia says that they are mistaken about something. She invited them here not for a discussion, but for employment. The girl is ready to pay them more than usual. They will definitely not suffer any losses. The guests look at each other and answer that, if the Marquise says so, then they will contact all the trading firms on the continent. He thinks that there will be no problem in providing the required volume of goods. The brunette smiles and says that all hope is only on them. They must take care of everything without exception. 2 months later, Grace comes to the Marquise's room, says that she heard that Nadia hasn't taken care of anything yet, except for her useless grass, and asks if Glenn will continue to watch her do this nonsense. The Marquis claims that she started this business with money from her dowry, and he has no right to interfere with her. The aunt assures that the main character has no financial literacy, since she believes that the grass will bring her money, and asks if she can be trusted with the household at all. Soon the whole day of debt repayment. The Marquis puts down his pen and turns to the aunt. Grace says that she didn't watch her language, but asks Glenn to remember one thing. She said it because she thinks about the future of the family. Stalin is left alone in his office and thinks about the day of repayment of debts. Suddenly, he hears someone running. Gordon bursts into the office and asks if his master has heard the news. Glenn rises from his chair and asks what it is. The butler, breathing heavily as he runs, says that they are saved and will not have to give up the plane. He claims that all this is thanks to the lady. The Marquis cannot believe his ears. In a village in the south, 2 boys are talking about how a girl recently died. Her arm was all numb, and eventually the girl also got the plague. One of the boys asks if it was just her, since there hasn't been a day in the last few months when they haven't burned corpses. It's not just their village that is suffering, but all the lands in the kingdom, starting from the southern territories. He asks when they will find a cure. Suddenly, a man runs up to the boys and asks if they have heard the news. Because they have finally found a cure for the plague, it is tea made from the herbs of the thorny vine. They say that it can cure you. The merchants, having heard this news, immediately decided to stock up on the herbs from the thorny vine, but someone has already bought everything. Now the main character looks at the villagers who are buying thorny vines. Fabian tells them not to rush, because there is a lot of goods. The woman says that she was very worried that her daughter would die. She thanks them for selling it so cheaply, because usually in such cases the price is very high, so the poor cannot afford it. The knight claims that it is all thanks to the generosity of the Marquise. She made sure that everyone could be cured. An order was issued to begin supplying herbal tea at an affordable price, otherwise from areas where the situation is more serious. Raising the price or reselling, as well as storing the herb, is prohibited. Everything was done to reduce losses among the poor. Now Nadia is standing on the bridge. She is talking to Wayne. The man tells the lady about his worries, that the southern territories will think that they deliberately monopolized all the medicine in the north so that the epidemic would flourish there. The Marchioness assures that the likelihood of this is small. First of all, it was not Winterfeld that bought up all the vine, the author says, standing in front of her. In addition, the girl is the daughter of the Duke of Balazit from the south. The thorny vine grass was sold faster than expected. Thanks to this, the merchants who agreed to wait and help in the business received a great profit. The debt that the girl gave to Katerina was 97,200 gold, and Wayne's debt was 10,087. Shylock could not believe that she actually paid the debt. Moreover, She offered cooperation only to those who agreed to wait. Nadia approaches the merchant. She claims that it seems that the conversation with the other merchants did not go well, and she was so waiting for a letter from him. She says that if the guests are all, then she will ask only those who helped her with the business to stay. The rest can go to the exit. The girl claims that she will wait for the day to meet Mr. Shylock again. The merchant says that he will wait too, and until then, may the lady be well. He clenches his fists and leaves. After this, the main character comes to her husband and asks if he believes her now, after the increase in devotion she has dealt with the debts. The guy claims that she can't see the future, but somehow she knew about what would happen. Nadia says that when she was in the south, she accidentally saw a report from the head of the lands of Errol in her father's office. Then she assumed that the plague would spread throughout the kingdom. The guy asks, "What about the cure?" The brunette says that the maid who looked after her as a child used to live a nomadic life. Every night she told her about her life, and once said that the herb of the thorny vine can help with a fatal disease when the heat covers the whole body. Of course, this is all a lie. The Marquis apologizes for misunderstanding Nadia. The girl thanks him for saying so. Glenn claims that when the girl said she would pay off her debts after she earned money, he thought she was lying because the main character does not let him finish his sentence and says that it is because her father is the Duke of Balazit. The Marquis says that it is so. He does not understand why the girl helps him. If Nadia's father finds out, he will not like it. The brunette asks how the Marquis listened to her all this time. She claims that she has already told him several times that she loves him and asks if he remembers what she told him. Glenn realizes that she is talking about love again. The guy says that whatever the reason, she paid off Winterfeld's debts. So if she has a request, he will fulfill it. The main character did not think that he would suggest it himself. She would like to say everything that is on her mind, but now she cannot. The girl stretches out her arms and says that she wants her husband to hug her once. The Marquis is surprised by such a request. The girl asks if this is too difficult a request. He replies that it is not so simple, and thought that she had another wish, for example, for him to punish the gossiping maids or ask him to return all the money spent over time. Nadia insists that if she had used such techniques, she would never have become a person of the Winterfell family. She asks if it would not be better for him to fulfill the request. Glenn realizes that he can do this. He hugs his wife back and holds her close. The guy notices that she smells sweet. Suddenly, someone from the hallway shouts that it's time to leave the business meeting. Nadia thinks what a relief this is. She was worried about how they would stop hugging. She tells her husband that she is sorry, but she must go. The Marquis says that everything is fine and she can go. When the main character leaves the room, she thanks Glenn for fulfilling her wish. And in her thoughts, she wonders if he now trusts her. The girl comes to her servants. She asks how things are going. The guys answer that, thanks to the double-entry bookkeeping that the mistress taught them, everything is going smoothly. Wayne, you say that this is the first time you hear about it. Nadia divided expenses and income into two parts, and now it is easier to track the movement of money. I asks if the mistress came up with this method herself. The main character replies that she is not that smart and learned it from one person who came from far away. The merchant claims that he does not know where this person is from, but he is simply incredible. Nadia says that she agrees that he knew a lot. The girl remembers how, in a past life, they were sitting with Jiho, asking us what his country was like. The brunette answered that in the world he lived in, women and men could get the same education, and it was common. The main character asked if he was joking. The guy said with confidence that they used the knowledge to open their own business. They were looking for something they really wanted to do. The brunette said that she also wanted to live like that. Jiho put his hand on hers and said that she was very smart, and that he felt sorry for her for living in her father's shadow all her life. He claimed that he wanted her to have a chance to reveal all her talents. Nadia remembers that every time they met, he told her something new. Thanks to him, she was able to think more broadly. This helped her when she returned to the past and began to make plans. But despite this, he abandoned the main character to climb to a higher place. Wayne says that the lady should be careful with Shylock because he is very cunning and greedy, so he will never give up so easily. Nadia says not to worry about it, because they know who her father hates the most: those who do not pay taxes on time. The Duke sits in his office and orders an immediate tax audit of the merchants in the north and to find everything that is on them. When he allowed his daughter to use her dowry for her stupid business, he could not even imagine that she would succeed so much. The man thinks that something is wrong here, and how could this be a simple coincidence? He is already starting to think about betrayal. But the Duke brushes such thoughts away from himself, because how could she have learned about something that was unknown to him and come up with such a plan? Nadia was just lucky. This time, it only played into Winterfell's hands. He squeezes the document in his hands and thinks that in any case, nothing lasts forever. Time will pass, and their budget will again be at the bottom. At this time, the main character has already finished renovating the estate. The butler is almost crying and claims that it is all thanks to their mistress's business. He is so grateful to her. The girl not only paid off the debt, but also solved the problem with the renovation. The brunette says that their mansion has only become brighter, and that is good. Nadia thinks that now she can take a breather and says that she will go to her office. It was hard for her for a while, but she did what she had to. She felt much better. On the way out, she tells her Gordon that she has something for him. She points to a bag of money and says that it is a special reward for the best butler. He has put a lot of effort into building a household that did not exist. The servant claims that this is too much money for him and she should save this money for the future. But the main character claims that all this time their lands existed only thanks to the hard work of the servants. Efforts should be rewarded with dignity. The brunette says that revenge must have often been awkward in front of subordinates because of salary problems. Now he will be able to maintain his authority by paying them. The butler almost cries. He remembers the annual waves of monsters, constant problems with food, and problems in the mansion because of increasing debts. He can't believe that everything was solved so easily. Gordon says that his mistress is a miracle sent to them by the ancestors of the family. He will honor and care for her all his life. The main character thanks her subordinate. She did not think that he would become so faithful to her. The knight tells the butler to stop crying. The main character understands that, thanks to the successful business, the layer began to trust her, and she must continue in the same spirit to complete her plan. Looking out the window, she notices a red flag and asks what it is. Fabian claims it is the speaker, since the flag is red, meaning the message is urgent. Nadia asks why they are so calm if it is an urgent message. Does he have any idea what happened? The guy says that a red flag at this time means there is a high probability that Count Alteo crossed the border. The county of Alteo is located south of Winterfell. It is not part of the Northern Commonwealth, nor of her father's alliance. It is the third force. The girl understands that relations between neighboring territories can be bad, but judging by the reaction of those two, they are clearly hiding something. The main character asks if by saying at that time they really meant that they do this every year. Apparently she hit the nail on the head. Winterfell has no money, no resources, and they also have crazy neighbors since they don't answer. Nadia sits with her husband. She says she heard news that their neighbors are encroaching on their territory. Glenn says that sometimes this happens, and the girl should not worry because he will be back soon. The brunette says that her husband is going to the battlefield. How can she not be worried? The Marquise looks at her coldly, but then sighs and thinks that it would be strange if she did not worry when her husband goes to war. This is a normal reaction. Fabian claims that his lady has nothing to worry about. The army of Winterfell is the strongest in the north and in the entire kingdom, and the master is the strongest warrior in the entire army. The low-grade soldiers of Alteo cannot be their rivals. Glenn orders his servant to be silent. The main character sees how confident he is and thinks that in that case she has nothing to worry about. Then maybe she should think about what territories to take from the enemies. Well, the girl suddenly comes to the realization that if they always win, then where are the lands? Winterfell, after all. Apart from the northern territories, she owns nothing else. The girl asks the knight if wars with Alteo happen often. He claims that this is true. Then the main character asks why they did not take the lands, because there were so many chances. Fabian does not know if it is possible to answer this question. But the Marquis says that it is because of the fortress. On the battlefield they win, but as soon as the enemies feel threatened, they hide in the Balong fortress. The knight says that his master is right, and they are too mean. He does not want to admit it, but Balong fortress is called a gift from heaven. After all, when their enemies hide there, they can't do anything. The knights don't come out, so they surrender and return. The guy sighs and says that most of Alteo's soldiers are mercenaries, but even that doesn't bother them. But they can't turn a blind eye to the fact that they are holding back their citizens who should be farming. The main character remembered everything, because the Balong fortress is known for being located next to a rich source of iron ore. If everything is so, then using that method, they will be able to capture it without any problems. Moreover, not far from this place, they will find Rio the dragon. The last appearance of the dragon was a disaster, but this time everything is different because there is a whole warehouse of treasures, and the owner has already died. The lady with brown hair thinks that she can't just watch what's happening because he himself gave her a reason, and she won't sit idly by. At this time, one of the servants enters the room and tells the master that it is time to go. Then the guy gets up from his seat and says, "Okay," and then heads towards his bride. He claims that he will be back soon. The young lady thinks that he is so confident and speaks as if he is going to have fun and not to war. The girl understands that Glenn is an unusual man. She turns to him, and when the guy turns around, she, with an innocent expression on her face, tells him to be careful and come back quickly. Glenn is silent for a moment, then says, "Okay," and leaves the room. Then he heads down the corridor, and the knight addresses him. He tells his master that as he saw, their relationship is not so bad. The guy asks if it seemed that way to him, and the knight says that everyone would have said the same. Then the young man turns around, and the servant says not to trust this girl. He understands everything. After all, a beautiful and fragile girl says pleasant words to his master, and it would be strange if he did not begin to feel something for her. But he asks the Marquise not to believe her, and not to give her his heart, because he himself knows the reason well. The silver-haired boy says that of course he knows, but the girl paid off their debts, and he can't be rude to her. He turns around and says that he doesn't really trust her, and the knight says that in that case, he has nothing to worry about. A few days later, the Marquis is in the Winterfeld camp discussing the progress of the war. His interlocutor says that everything is going as they expected, and their opponents have locked themselves in the fortress. So he asks if they should call off the army. Glenn thinks about it, and the man says that if he doesn't want to, then they can try to take the fortress. He claims that the Count's army has suffered on the battlefield and will need time to replenish its numbers. The protagonist understands that he wants this too. However, he says that it is not necessary because the guy does not want to risk the lives of soldiers in a battle, the probability of failure of which is high. Then the man says that if this is what his master wants, then they will do it. But suddenly, some shouts are heard from outside. The knights shout that entry is prohibited. The man says that it is noisy outside, and he will go check. The Marquis says that it is not necessary because he wanted to get some fresh air, so let the guy rest. But when he heads for the door, he hears the knight shouting at the man to wait and claiming that this is putting them in a difficult situation. However, when Glenn opens the entrance to the tent, he sees a familiar face. He asks if it is Nadia. The girl just looks back at him. Then the protagonist thinks why she is there. But the young lady only throws off her hood and tells Glenn that they haven't seen each other for a long time, and that's why she misses him. The guy is a little surprised by this, and the main character says that thank God he is fine, and what a relief it is. The young man thinks that maybe a couple of days ago, she wished him a safe journey. He understands that the war is going according to plan, and he was already thinking about returning home, so he has no idea what is going on in her head. The guy wonders if she could have come there out of concern for him, but then sighs and thinks that this can't be. Then he turns around and suggests going inside first. Then the young lady sits down at the table with a map, and Glenn asks why she came. His wife replies that she wrote a military request. The young man, shocked by this, asks what she is talking about. The young lady says she has found a way to take over Balong Fortress, but it seems they don't believe her. As the Marquis thought, she did not come there out of concern for him, but he thinks that this is something to be glad about. The guy puts his hand on his head and thinks that the fact that he even thought about it is already infuriating. The young man asks if she knows what a military request means in wartime. And the main character says that the price for a false report is execution, and she knows it. She also adds that she told the truth, so she has nothing to worry about. Then the man turns to her and says that, looking at her confidence, it seems that this method will bring them victory. So he offers to see how good the plan is. The main character thanks Lord Giscard, and she says that she will start then. She points to the map and says that there they should build a mountain in the west, and in another area in the north, they need to dig a cave. The mountain will be a trap, so it doesn't need to be built to the end. And the most important thing is the cave. They should place a lot of gunpowder, oil underground, and set everything on fire. When the cave collapses, the fortress will fall with it. And then they will be able to capture the enemies at once. The guy realizes that in a situation where they don't know how to take the fortress, a cave is a good option. He claims that they didn't even think about it, but there are a lot of granite rocks in the area, and they have already checked the area. The young lady says that there is no need to worry about it, and she saw information about the weak point of Balong Fortress in her father's office. It said that there are many soft rocks on the fortress server, so there will be no problem. The guy understands that the problem with the Balong Fortress was a headache for his ancestors, and if they just retreat now, then someday it will come up again. And if Nadia is telling the truth, then they will be able to finish it off once and for all. The young lady claims that she can vouch for the materials her father has collected in case anyone becomes his enemy. And the Lord says that the Duke of Balazit must have plenty of such papers. But he asks if the young lady is not herself from the Balazit family. The man thinks that there is nothing he likes about her. But suddenly, Glenn turns to Lord Giscard and asks if the problem with the Balong Fortress has bothered the Lord as much as it has bothered him. But if the girl told the truth, then this could be their chance. So he says to send people to the north. It won't be that hard to check if there really are a lot of soft rocks there. Then the man agrees, and the main character says that since the young lady is ready to put her life on the line, he doesn't think that she is deceiving them. The young lady claims that she knew it, because only her husband trusts her. The guy is a little shocked by such words. He thinks that this is not what he meant. But the main character just grabs him by the hand and tells him to take care of himself, and consider this her order. A little while later, the Lord looks at the ruined fortress. He thinks that this cannot be, and the girl did not lie. When they enter the fortress, they see the owner of those lands there. He screams in fear, saying that he said he surrenders, and also asks if the Marquis of Winterfeld knows about aristocratic pride, because even if he is his prisoner, he is still a nobleman, so Glenn must follow aristocratic laws. But the guy just puts a knife to his throat and asks if he talks about pride and laws. After all, not even half a year has passed since the Winterfell army returned from the Kalia expedition. The soldiers sacrificed themselves for the kingdom, and the Count, without even giving them a rest, declares a new war. The young man asks if this is what he calls pride. His interlocutor says that he still cannot kill the nobleman, because if he harms him, but suddenly someone interrupts him and says that Count Alteo is right, because even though the Marquis won the war, he cannot take the life of his enemy. Then she approaches Alteo and asks what about the fact that the Count, having lost and been captured, committed suicide out of shame. After all, this is the only way to preserve the pride of an aristocrat. The man is shocked by this. He wonders if the girl is crazy. And then he bows down and thinks that at this rate he really could die soon. So he cries out to the guy to spare him, and if they let him live, he will give them all the riches. The young lady then hands him a non-aggression pact and says that if he signs it, they will spare his life. When the guy reads this, he gets shocked. You wrote there that, firstly, the county of Altea has been attacking the lands of Winterfell for 30 years. Secondly, as the losing side, they will pay 100,000 gold. And thirdly, the county of Altea will transfer all rights to the lands of the Rhine, including the fortress of Balong. After this, the young lady tells him not to even think about discussing the points, and then asks why he is sitting. And he claims that he had better sign quickly. After that, the Knights of Winterfell celebrate. One of them says that her soul has become lighter because they have finally sorted out this protracted war for territory, and the other claims that he is right. He asks if his friend saw the Count's expression when the girl took out the contract. The guy says that he couldn't even imagine that in the mountainous area it would be possible to find a loophole, and the one who suggested it was the lady. Lord Giscard listens to all this in silence, while the knights offer to drink to the lady. The main character thinks that first there was the thorny vine, and now the war. But the girl helped them with everything. At first he thought she only got close to him because she was sent to spy, but she is completely different. The young man asks the knight why he doesn't see Nadia, and he, chewing a piece of meat, says that the lady said that she was very tired and wanted to rest in her place. The young lady, meanwhile, is sitting in her room, thinking about how she can discreetly hint to the guy about the dragon's location. The first option is that she will say that she accidentally found it when she was passing by, but its habitat is deep in the mountains. Therefore, the main character thinks about the option that her ancestor appeared to her in a dream and told her about it. But the girl understands that this is not very impressive. But suddenly, she hears someone knocking on the door. The young lady thinks that she is already warned that she is resting and does not understand who it could be. But she says to come in. It turns out to be the Marquise. The girl says that she thought he was celebrating with everyone. You ask what brought him there. Glenn asks if it wasn't thanks to her that they were able to win, and if she doesn't think it would be better to go out to the soldiers. The main character says that she thinks he's right. Then her husband extends his hand to her, and the young lady wonders whether he will accompany her and why he himself suggested it. The main character just calmly says that she's in trouble. The guy wonders what she's talking about, and the young lady just says with a smile that nothing and everything is fine. As they walk down the corridor, the guy claims that he heard from Fabian that she was tired and wanted to rest in the room. But it turns out the girl wasn't sleeping. The young lady says that if he's talking about that, then she couldn't sleep, thinking about new territories. After all, they finally got them, and of course, she had to think about how to use them. The guy says it like this, and the young lady continues, and says that the mine is of particular importance, because the production of iron ore will increase because of this. But suddenly, she stumbles and almost falls, but her husband immediately catches the girl. Then the young lady thanks him and says that it seems she relaxed too much because she could have stopped worrying about him and his safety. And she herself thinks that this is unexpected. Why did she twist her leg? But what is more important? That's why his face is so close. The main character says that he can let her go now. Then the guy does so and tells her to be careful. The lady with brown hair thinks that he first offers to walk her out, and now this. So it is noticeable that the atmosphere has changed somehow. When they enter the room with the knights, they are already completely drunk. One of them screams that the confused face of Count Alteo was so funny. The young lady understands that it is like a bazaar there. The knights, seeing that their mistress had arrived, were surprised and immediately began to sing for their mistress. The young lady smells the fumes coming from them and is greeted. She understands that the knights are all drunk. The girl, of course, knew that it would be like this, and therefore did not want to come. Glenn says that they seem to be too happy about the end of the long war, so he asks the young lady to understand them. Then someone turns to the main character. It turns out to be Lord Giscard. He says he wants to say something. The young lady thinks that this is exactly it, because she wanted to point out something. So the girl says that she is listening to him. The man kneels before her and apologizes for doubting her. The main character certainly didn't expect this. She calmly asks the Lord to stand up and claims that she understands perfectly well why he did not trust her, as he said she was from the Balazit family. But she says that now she is with the Marquis's wife, and her reputation is Glenn's reputation, and the knight's bad behavior towards her is tantamount to damaging the reputation of their leader, whom they serve. The boy turns to his wife and says that Lord Giscard behaved this way out of deep loyalty to their family, and he will be careful that this does not happen again. Well, the young lady says that she will not assert her authority only at the expense of others, so she herself will give him a fitting punishment. The Lord agrees and says that he understands perfectly well how much the group was with her, so he will gladly accept any punishment. The main character only says that it will be hard for him to bear the punishment alone, but if he shares it, the burden will not be so heavy. The knights are already a little scared. They ask what the lady is talking about. One of the knights thinks that he didn't even suspect that their lady was such a person. But the lady with the brown hair only says that each of them will be punished, and everyone without exception must drink a penalty. The knights are completely shocked by this, and then they smile and say that they can handle this. Another knight says that the lady is also quite the joker. Nadia, however, claims that she is glad that they are happy. She waves her hand to the maid and asks if she can bring what she asked for. Then the maid brings even more barrels of alcohol. The knights are shocked by this and do not ask the mistress if she thinks that this is too much. And besides, it is all quite strong alcohol. The young lady just smiles and says that this is how the penalty area should look. Then she turns to the commander and says that she will pour him a drink personally. The man thanks her. He understands that everyone took this situation as a joke, but it is not so. After all, in this way the girl points out his rudeness, attracting the attention of the soldiers. Moreover, she makes everyone remember that she is above them. The guy starts drinking alcohol and thinks that this girl is definitely not so simple, and perhaps a noble person has really appeared in the north. The young lady tells the next one to come. Then the knight with black hair cries out to be allowed, but the knight in front of him asks if he knows that he is standing in line. The young lady Lishu smiles and tells them not to worry. There is enough for everyone. Glenn watches his wife and can't help but smile. That same night, someone sneaks into the office with the documents. It turns out that it is the main character. She puts a piece of paper into the stack and says that everyone in this family, and even the ancestors, should thank her. A little while later, the girl screams that this document talks about the dragon Rio. The servants are shocked by this. One of them says that they only just received these lands, and then such a disaster occurs. The Marquis says that he did say that everything went suspiciously smoothly, but because of the dragon they won't be able to get rid of these lands, so he says that something needs to be done. The young lady says that it seems he shouldn't worry, because it says there that the dragon's owner died long ago. And apparently, Count Alteo only received the report and has not yet had time to begin excavations. So all the rare items have been accumulated for the dragon now theirs. The Marquis is shocked. He wonders why something good happens so often, because he has never been so lucky. The young lady looks at him and thinks that he must not believe in such great luck, and thinks that of course he does, because it is all thanks to her. Then the young man asks how she read this document, and the knight adds that they also saw it, but decided to skip it, since they could not make out Count Alteo's scribbles. The main character is shocked. She thinks that even though she wrote with her left hand, it is really so incomprehensible. Now the young lady understands why no one said a word about him for 4 days. The young lady laughs and says that her father has similar handwriting, and she has been used to it since childhood, so it would be better not to send him to a search party as soon as possible, because it would be better to find out the scale of what is happening before returning to Winterfell. Glenn says that she only has different talents. The young lady does not understand what he is talking about, and he just turns around and orders Anils to quickly send a detachment to search for the dragon. A little while later, the boy stands on a hill and looks at the fertile land that is now his property. But there is one problem. Anils turns to his master and says that I have enough farmers because of this. Most of the fields are idle, because the Count of Altea extorted large taxes from the farmers who rented the land. People began to die of hunger in the spring, when there was not enough food, and eventually simply fled the county. When the farming season begins, he will be able to strengthen his forces and prepare for civil war. But even if he forces those farmers to move to these lands, there will still not be enough labor in such vast spaces. One of the servants approaches the master and asks how about Togo bringing back the farmers who fled from the county. After all, if he gives the order, he will lead the army and turn the whole area upside down. The peasants most likely created their own village and live in it. The young lady, however, claims that if they force them to return, it will affect the Marquise's reputation. She asks if it wouldn't be better to use homeless people, because then they could easily solve the problem of labor shortage. Glenn says it's not a bad idea, but will they want to settle there? Because even if he lowers taxes, they won't trust him so easily. Because from their point of view, Alto is a terrible territory, and the truth only becomes obvious after some time. The young lady just remains silent, and the guy doesn't even guess what she's thinking about again. After which, he approaches her and says that Nadia must have an idea. The young lady understands that he himself is asking her opinion, but does not understand why. She asks if it's noticeable on her face. The girl claims that if he lends her his sword, she thinks she can solve the problem. Glenn asks why she needs a sword. He understands that this sword is the head sword, which is passed down in the Winterfell family from generation to generation. So what is the young lady going to do with it? Then the Marquis puts his hand on the sword in its sheath and approaches her. The main character thanks him, but the guy just walks past her and hands the sword to the knight. Nadia turns around, not understanding what's wrong, and her husband just says that the sword is too heavy and it will be difficult for her to carry it, and Fabian will become her hands and feet, so let her just order him around. The main character claims that she is not that weak, but the Marquise only says that she seemed lighter to him than he thought. Nadia does not understand what he is talking about, but then the realization dawns on her that he might be talking about that day. Now the young lady understands that, as she thought, something has changed in Glenn. A little while later, two men are sitting in a diner. One of them asks if his interlocutor has heard about the story. The other gestures to ask what he is talking about. Then the blonde says that the whole village is talking about it, and he still doesn't know the story about Peter and the 10 bars of gold. One day, a new owner appeared in the county of Alteo. The new leader hung an interesting sign near the gate of the fortress that whoever would pull the ball out with his head would get 10 gold bars. All the people wanted to get the gold, but no one could get the leader's sword. One woman from the village cried out that this was a test from the chief, and this sword was not a simple one, but was the property of the chief himself, and he was checking whether the new residents would dare to touch his things. Other villagers agreed. But that day, a brave young man appeared and cried out that he would try to pull out the chief's sword, after which he did so. Then one of the chief's servants came out to him. The villagers were a little agitated by this. They almost buried the young man. The lord approached him and asked if he was the one who pulled out the head's sword, and then told him to kneel down and accept the reward from the chief. It was a chest with 10 gold bars. The headman's promises was greatly rewarded and lived happily. That's the end of the story. The guy says that what happened is simply unbelievable, and his interlocutor says that the new leader is different from Count Alteo and is not one to speak ambiguously. And the man also claims that he heard that this story has spread to other villages, and that Balong fortress has again filled with peasants. But suddenly, one of the guys screams and offers them a drink, because the new head promised to significantly reduce taxes, so this year they will live well. Everyone in that diner is overjoyed about this, and at that moment, servants run up to the main character. One of them claims that the head of the peasants is on his knees asking for permission to return. The second reports on the repair of the broken weapon. The brown-haired lady smiles and says, well, Glenn watches his wife at this time. He thinks that the girl is so energetic, as if she is offended by her past life. He does not understand why she, sparing no effort, deals with the affairs of Winterfell. Although the young lady says that it is because of her love for him, then why is she not interested in him at all? At this time, one of the servants bursts into the room. He says that they finally found the diagram of the Balong fortress. When they look at the plan, the Marquis claims that the walls are very strong, and that the inside of the building resembles a labyrinth. He claims that the previous owner was very careful, and that this must have been how he protected himself from the invasion of strangers. The young lady understands that they were the strangers. She thinks that the Balong fortress is called the Iron Fortress because there are many secret places inside, and perhaps in one of them lies the treasure hidden by Count Alteo, so everything needs to be checked. But, frankly speaking, they have a goal more important than treasures, because in the past, Alteo, together with the gnomes, sold high-quality steel items. These were materials, weapons, and even household items. The young lady understands that they would be of great help in the development of Winterfell. So now she thinks with the plan of the fortress that it seems all the secret rooms have been found. But unfortunately, there are no traces of the gnomes and even signs that they cooperated. Suddenly, the young lady bumps into her husband's back and asks for forgiveness because she was lost in thought. She asks Glenn what happened, but he only says that it's all a bit strange because the path is blocked, but there is a gap and the wall is a bit shabby. The guy looks at it and puts his hand on it. He thinks that maybe there is a passage behind it, and when he opens it, he sees a passage to the stairs inside. When the young lady goes there, she realizes that there is a room with the wall. No matter how much she looks, she does not see any difference. so she wonders how he knew. The knight says that this place is not on the map, and it is somehow suspicious, and Glenn suggests going down. When the main character goes down the stairs, she sees traces of red liquid on the walls, and when they finally get to the very bottom, they see a forge. Glenn wonders why Alteo hid it in a place like this. The main character looks at the weapons. She takes one of the daggers in her hands and understands that it is handmade. The young man approaches her and says that he may be sent away, so the girl should not touch anything there. The young lady says that it is good and thanks for the advice. Glenn thinks that this is strange, and has Alteo's weapons always been of such high quality, because this dagger is much stronger and lighter than their weapons. The knight turns to his master and says that he hears some sounds behind the door, and they sound like the sounds of half-dead people. Then the Marquis approaches the door, and the young lady thinks that they have found a forge hidden in the dungeon and high-quality weapons. But what if there is something else behind this door? Glenn says he will check and orders the knight not to leave the lady. Fabian says that several days have passed since they took possession of the fortress. Are there really people left there? Well, what if they are not people, but ghosts? The young man tells him to just stand near the lady, after which he kicks the door down and goes inside. The guy sees something that looks like a prison there. Someone screams from the cage that he will do as the master orders, and claims that he was wrong. When the Marquis approaches the cage, he sees several people chained there, and he realizes that they are dwarves. The young lady sees red stains on their clothes and wonders what happened there and why they are chained in such a place. One of the gnomes asks to spare them. He cries out that last time they committed a terrible sin, but Glenn only asks why they are there. Kanan asks if the guy wasn't sent by Count Alteo. He claims that they just came to see the human world, and that's true. The Marquis understands that his enemy also exploited the gnomes. The author asks the master what they should do. Then the guy says that he will personally deal with this. The main character thinks about what he is talking about and becomes a little wary. Her husband kicks the door down and goes inside, reaching for his sword. The dwarf is very scared by this, but the guy only swings with a serious expression on his face. The main character is shocked by this. She immediately hugs her husband from behind and asks him to wait. The young man asks what she is doing, and Nadia says that they can't be finished off because they are just victims exploited by Count Alteo. The gnomes are still in a state of shock, and Glenn asks why the girl thought of such a thing. The young lady is shocked and asks if he wasn't going to do it, because if so, then why would he need a sword? But the guy swung his sword with such a serious face that how could he not think of the worst? The young man only cuts the chains and says that he wanted to free them. The Marquis then states that his name is Glenn, and he is the new head of the county, so the guy asks if they could tell what Alteo did to them. The gnome looks at him and says that they themselves did not expect that everything would turn out like this. They wanted to see the world, and in this world try to create new things using resources and their skills. Thinking about this, they went outside, but no one was happy to see them. The people in the village only screamed that they were monsters. Another gnome told Mr. Mir that this was the last house, and maybe they should go to another village. In addition, they had a sick baby with them, but they were only busy running away from people, and no one helped them. Then they found themselves in the forest and were trying to get out of the rain. She claimed that there was no sign of the rain stopping and asked what they should do. Meyer thought that if this continued, not only the child would be in danger, but everyone else as well. He thought if only there was a place where they could hide from the rain for a while. That's why he claimed that he would go to the fortress, because if their lava lived there, then maybe he would take pity on them. Another dwarf said that he would also go with the master. Then Miar came to the fortress to the lord, and kneeling, asked him to help them until the child's fever subsided. The owner of the fortress thought what kind of abomination this was, and he assumed that they had a serious matter. But it turned out that everything was completely different, so he wonders who let these beggars into the fortress, and then he asks the knight about it. He claims that the new guard did it, and the lord says that he doesn't need to know. Then he orders his hands to be cut off and thrown out along with this brat. One of the gnomes begged the master not to drive them out, because they did not have many things with them, but they would do everything and let him listen to them first. The knight simply grabbed him by the collar and asked why he was so persistent, which caused the dwarf to drop the cup from his hands. The count, when he picked it up, told the knight to leave them. He did not understand where they got such a precious thing from, and they probably stole it. So the guy says it's very suspicious that they have such a rare thing. He asks if the dwarves stole it, and they say that the Lord misunderstood everything and they made this cup themselves. Alteo doesn't know where they came from, but they seem to have skills, and if they're good at something, they could be useful. So the dwarves were able to get into the fortress. Alteo said that they could stay there while they did whatever he said. He locked them in the basement to protect them from possible threats. We didn't mind, because we wanted to stay there until the child recovered. However, when Miar thanked the Lord for everything he had done and said that the child had gone so they were leaving, Alteo's reaction surprised him. The Lord said that he picked them up too, but they were so ungrateful, he asked if they wanted to leave the fortress and said that it was nonsense. Miar asks if he himself didn't say that they can stay there until the baby gets better if I do everything he wants. After all, they no longer need to stay there. The guy looked at the weapon and said that, as the head of the territory, he was obliged to protect the local residents, and if people like them broke into the village, it would be a disaster. Staying there, they learned how to make weapons, so how can he know what they will do with this knowledge once they leave the fortress? Then the Lord says that he must deal with them. Miar wonders what he is talking about and whether he really didn't think of letting them go from the start. The other dwarf says that all this time, he gave them neither food nor time to rest. He grabs a hammer and asks what Alteo is talking about now. The head gnome screams at Jiho not to do this. But the Lord only knocks the hammer out of the dwarf's hands, causing him to fall. The head of the dwarves immediately runs up to his relative. The man asks how he can let go of those who tried to harm even their benefactor. Now Miar says that after this, the new owner of the lands found them imprisoned and dying of hunger. Glenn says that it would have been better if they had found them earlier, but he tells us that it is not their fault, and that only that person is to blame for everything. The guy claims that he will compensate them for everything they have suffered and provide treatment until they fully recover. Miar says that they don't need money, and he told him everything not for that. She tells us that they will gladly accept treatment and return to where they came from. The main character looks a little sad. She understands that these are people who do not belong to this world and who were never accepted. And besides, their faith was betrayed. The young lady seems to understand well what they are feeling now, so she must do something so that they do not end up in the same situation as she did. The girl claims that it would be a shame if they just went back, because they went out to see the world, but so far they haven't really seen it, because this world is so huge. So the young lady with a smile on her face offers them to go with them. She claims that she will show them the scale of this world in Winterfeld, and they will feel it together. The gnome tries to object. He thinks that if it is the same there, no one will be near them, and they will be forced to work again. But Nadia just leans towards him and says that she guarantees that no one will kidnap or ban them again. She also says that they will pay them and give them leave so that they can explore all the territories to their heart's content. She says that, of course, she does not force them, and if they do not want to, they can refuse. But she would be very happy if they lived in them, because their lands need talented craftsmen like them. The girl thinks that in the past, she would also like to be consoled like this, in a house where no one needed her. Miar wonders if they need them, and Glenn says he thinks the same. He says he understands well that they are afraid that something like this could happen again. But he claims that they don't have to worry, because as the new leader, he guarantees them freedom and security. The gnomes look at each other, and then their leader turns around and says that it seems like everyone thinks the same. Then the Marquis extends his hand to him and says that it is a good decision, and first they should be cured, and then they will talk about where they will live. The guy says that he will take care of them. A little while later, a knight bursts into the room of the Marquis and Marquise. He shouts to the master that they have completed the inspection of the iron ammunition. As the lady said, they are incredible, and invites the gentleman to just look at this quality. The Marquis says that he said to test them, not to put them on himself, and the knight says that in any case the result is good. He asks how the young lady came up with this, but it always turns out as she says. The main character understands that, to be honest, these are not her ideas, but she says that she has been thinking about this for a long time, but there was no chance to check. And then they hired Dwarven craftsmen and found iron ore. Everything was perfect for trying. Nadia realizes that iron armor is much stronger than regular armor, but this will be revealed later, based on someone's future. The young lady knows all this only because she has already lived it. Glenn turns to his wife and says that if they can distribute such armor to others, their army's defense will increase 100-fold. The main character says that of course she wanted to do so. She claims that she ran there for this reason, and when they return to Winterfell, they will be able to improve the weapons too. The guy thinks his wife is the one whose thoughts he can't read. The young lady thinks everything is ready. She drinks tea and understands that with the money from the dragon and the thorny vine, the territory and food in the Rhine region, and an army fully equipped with iron armor and weapons, this place will soon be on par with the South. The girl thinks that the Duke and her sister are in for sad last moments of life. Someone tells the lady that he is coming in. It's Fabian. He says he brought the item she was talking about. The main character thanks him, and the guy says he found the most famous master in the Rhine. He asks if the girl knows how hard it was to do. He also asks why the lady needs this, because he doesn't think she will use it herself. The young lady claims that it is for a gift. She thinks that it is the first time she is preparing a gift for someone. In her past life, she did not have a single person of her own to take care of, and naturally, she did not receive gifts from anyone either. And if you think about it, he did give her something once. The girl remembers how her sister screamed how annoying it was. And why does the maid's daughter get more attention than her? It was a day when Karine was angry at her sister as usual. And all because the dress she wore to the ball attracted more attention than her outfit. She herself threw the dress to her as a handout. The young lady thought that if she kept quiet, she would soon calm down. Well, the blonde just screamed whether her sister was ignoring her. Nadia thinks that Karine always took out her anger on her, and at some point she resorted to assault, so the girl was expecting this. And then the main character's husband passed by. And when he noticed this action, he grabbed the blonde by the hand. He asked what Lady Karine was doing now. The blonde told him not to interfere and to go where he was going, because it was the sister's personal business. The brunette asks if it is personal, and then turns to the young lady and says that then he too might have a personal matter with her, after which he takes the main character by the hand and says that he needs Lady Nadia. The lady with brown hair did not understand what was happening and told Lord Jiho to wait, but he only continued to lead her along. The blonde was left alone in the room. And this couple went to the restaurant. Jiho claimed that red suits Nadia very well. The main character thanked him. She thought he had suddenly given her a new dress and invited her to dinner. Although they were married, even when they bumped into each other, they didn't really talk to each other. The guy just says that this place is popular among lovers and asks if the young lady has ever been there. Nadia said that she was always sitting at home and did not have the opportunity, and now she understands why there are so many people there. The young man points to the food and says that he talks too much, so he'll let the girl try it before it gets cold. The main character agrees, and when he tries the dish, he thinks how delicious it is. The brunette says he is glad, because TV series always said that the most important thing on the first date is food. The young lady asks what he is talking about and suggests that he eat quickly, and she wonders what TV series he is talking about. The guy claims that he is done, and he likes how Nadia eats well. The main character thinks that if you look, the option is considered the most important, how they look in front of others. She remembers how her sister said that Lord Jiho probably doesn't know how to use cutlery since they are on the same level. She laughed and said that it was the first time she had seen a knife handled so ignorantly. Now the young lady realized that if she had seen Lord Jiho's poor table manners, most people would have condemned him. The brown-haired man says that perhaps her question will seem rude, but she wonders if she can ask it anyway. The Lord says that of course she can. Then the main character says that he is not used to table etiquette. She says that she did not want to spoil his mood, and he just came from another world, so she thought that this could happen. The guy clenches his fist and says that everything is correct. He claims that no one was watching him in his house, so he ate as he pleased. But apparently, when others see him eating, they make fun of not only him, but also the young lady. The main character is a little shocked by this. She offers if he doesn't mind to teach him. After they have eaten, they go home. The guy says that he had a great time thanks to her, and this place is really as incredible as they say. After which the young man asks that he wants to ask something. He claims to be very embarrassed, but then asks the girl if she has ever experienced discrimination. The main character asks what he's talking about, and he adds that he's interested in whether there is discrimination among the nobility. The brunette says that he thought in this world, only strangers like him are treated differently. And the main character understands that if you think about it, he is right. Despite the fact that he has outstanding abilities, he is ignored only because he is an outsider and was even forced to marry an illegitimate daughter. The young lady was born into this world, and although she is not loved, everyone knows whose blood flows in her. And there is only one guy in this world. That's why the main character says that it must be hard for him. The brunette is silent at first, and then he takes her hand in his and says that she should have the same. He asks if the girl wants to meet again and says that he will tell her how to read the stars. Nadia asks if there is a special way to do this. The guy says that, of course, and if you look at the stars for a long time, you can learn a lot, such as the weather, the terrain, and the right time for farming. The main character asks if this is what they teach in their world and says that it is quite interesting. Then the brunette asks if she can come to their next meeting in the clothes he gave her. The young lady smiles and agrees. Now she thinks that she has given in to useless memories. So the girl tries to forget it, because no matter what happened, in the end, he betrayed her too. He hurt her as much as she trusted him. The guy is sitting at this time, looking at the stars and thinking about Nadia. At this time, the Duke in his office cannot calm down. He slams the table and cries out whether the Marquis of Winterfell has captured Balong Keep. He screams, "What did that idiot Alteo do, that they took the fortress from him?" Oh! The servant says that it seems Winterfell dug a tunnel under the fortress and blew it up. The Duke is shocked. He wonders how the Marquis could know the exact location of the soft rocks to destroy the walls. But suddenly, he realizes that Glenn could not have known such secret information. He wonders if Winterfell has been blessed with good fortune ever since Nadia married the Marquis, and if it is just a coincidence. The Duke realizes that near the Balong fortress are the most fertile lands of the Rhine, and this is a place that can withstand the south. He realizes that it remained untouched by Alteo as they periodically confronted Winterfell in wars. The blonde asks if there has been any news from his daughter, and the servant claims that there has not, and the first mistress never contacted them. Isn't it good that Lord Jiho succeeded in the military campaign of Gadabir? Because now everyone in the capital is talking about him. They even gave him the nickname Dragon Hunter. That says it's true, and it's good that at least he's doing his part. But the blonde has a bad feeling, and he understands that he must find out everything for sure. He tells the rumors to bring paper for writing, because he must find out about the well-being of his daughter, whom he has not seen for a long time. Glenn at this time is heading somewhere on horseback. The knights inform their master that the outskirts of Winterfell are finally visible. This outskirts is the village of Topu, and the poor live there. The residents there shout joyfully because the master has returned. The residents see fruit in one of the carts. The woman says how many expensive fruits there are, and her son asks what they are, and says that they are so bright and look very tasty, so he wants to try them. The main character gets out of the carriage. She takes one of the apples and hands it to the boy. The girl with a smile on her face claims that today they have a small amount of them, but soon they will be able to eat them all the time. The child, in shock, asks if they are really giving him this precious fruit, and then thanks the lady. Glenn suggests that they take a short rest in this village. He understands that only a few months ago, because of hunger, it was difficult to see a smile on their faces. But in a short time the situation improved. The guy understands that when they return to the mansion, he should properly thank Nadia. But then the girl turns to him and says that the day has come when they will return to the mansion. The young lady says with a smile on her face that time flies very quickly. The guy looks at her in shock. The lady with brown hair thinks why he is staring at her like that and wonders if she has something on her face. She says she just wanted to tell him something before they left and claims that when they arrive at Winterfell, that procession. The young man doesn't even listen. He's wondering why he didn't notice this before, that the girl is quite beautiful. He realizes that she is not at all like her father. He, of course, thought that she was not ugly, but the young lady breaks him out of his thoughts and asks if Glenn is listening to her. He immediately apologizes and says that he was lost in thought. Then Nadia claims she was talking about the ceremony of returning to Winterfell and his place in the procession. The boy puts his hand on his head and says he forgot, and then says she will enter the grounds with him. The young lady remembers something important and says that she wanted to tell him earlier, but she didn't want to be seen, so it's better for her to stay in the carriage. The young man asks what she is talking about, because the success in this war is her merit, and she should be treated accordingly. But the main character interrupts him and says that if rumors start that she returned with him on the same horse, then won't her father start to suspect her, because they might start calling her a double spy. She claims that someday there will come a day when they will use what her father trusts her with, so she suggests preserving that opportunity. The silver-haired guy puts his hand on his head and says that there is no need to go to such lengths. It is true that he and the Duke of Balazit are political opponents, but isn't he the girl's family? He claims that he would never ask her to stab members of his family in the back, and he would never involve her in his dealings with the duchy. But Nadia objects. She says that in the near future, there will be a serious confrontation between the North and the South, and she thinks that Glenn himself guesses about this. She claims that if she suddenly had to choose between the two of them, she would choose Glenn. The guy is shocked by this, but then he turns away and says that maybe she thinks so now, but if the girl harms her family with her own hands, it will become a scar for life, and, in other words, he is not going to involve her in the war between them. The main character thanks the Marquise for such words. Well, she claims that it is not difficult for her to help them. The young lady says, a little shyly, that she likes Glenn and wants to help the man she loves. The guy is embarrassed by this, but then immediately turns away. He wonders if all Southern girls confess their feelings so easily. He says that he understands the girl and it is time to go, so let her get into the carriage. The young lady says that is fine and adds that they will see each other later. And she herself wonders if the guy just got embarrassed. She thinks that the more she looks at him, the cuter he becomes. At this time, in the mansion, a woman asks if the butler can leave her a seal and if he will really behave like this. The man apologizes and says that he cannot handle the lady's seal so carelessly. But the woman only turns to Gordon and says that just a couple of months ago, she was managing the mansion's household, and, to be more precise, she was also the butler. But now the man does not trust her. Gordon says he is grateful to her for her help. But that was then, and now the Winterfell mansion has a mistress. The woman smiles and says this, and it only means that now the mansion has a real owner. She claims that the truth cannot be hidden, and servants everywhere are whispering that the Marquise has not been seen for several days. So the woman turns to Gordon and suggests that he tell her who should take over the family's household when his mistress so irresponsibly leaves her place. The butler is a little shocked by this, and the woman continues and asks if he thinks it's too suspicious that she disappeared when Glenn left. And she must have fled while she had the chance, because the woman is sure that something bad has happened in Winterfell. Then she asks if the butler has forgotten that the girl is from the Balazit family, but he doesn't answer. And then he says that he understands her concerns, and he didn't want to say this, but the lady is now with the gentleman. The woman, in shock, asks since when she has been with Glenn, and then shouts that even if that is true, it does not make her any less suspicious. And who knows what aces she has up her sleeve. The butler says it's possible, but as for the household, the lady will deal with it personally. The woman is in complete shock. She wonders what this girl did that the butler is so unquestioningly on her side. She screams how Glenn still hasn't sent her back, because she was definitely in his way. Gordon says he doesn't know, and they will be back soon, so let her ask the gentleman herself. The woman asks what he is talking about, and he claims that the Marquise will be back home soon. At this time, Glenn returns to his mansion, and everyone congratulates him on his victory. His aunt also meets him and says what a relief it is that he has returned safely. The guy asks his aunt if she came out to meet him, and claims that he returned. The woman just says with a smile on her face that this is incredible and a truly great achievement. She also says that the Marquise also came with him, and how good it is that she is all right. The woman says she was very surprised to hear that she left the mansion and went to war, because how could a girl go to such a dangerous place? She looks at the young lady and decides to listen to how she will justify herself. But the girl only innocently says that she simply missed the Marquis so much that she could not stand it any longer. The Marquise's aunt just thinks what nonsense this is, and the knights behind her say how romantic it is. Glenn is a little embarrassed, and the woman thinks, "What kind of nasty girl is this?" because she decided to get out of the situation like this. Therefore, the aunt says that if the girl loves the Marquis so much, she should have thought about his situation, because surely she didn't realize that her presence on the battlefield could only hinder him. The young lady only sadly replies that her aunt is right and she is so stupid. Well, suddenly someone addresses a woman. Auntie sees him and thinks that such a loyal man as Giscard will definitely say something useful, because he has accumulated discontent because of the fact that she came to the military camp, and in this case he will say something caustic. But he only tells Mrs. Grace to watch her words, because there are many eyes there, so let her be kind to the Marquise. The woman is completely shocked by such words, and the man continues and says that the Marquise put herself in danger because of her concern for the master. And on the battlefield, she was responsible, so Lady Grace does not need to worry. The woman doesn't even know what to say. She understands that now it is not someone else, but Giscard himself, who is protecting Balazit's daughter. The other knights say that this is true, and aren't they newlyweds? And another knight says that when the master met the lady, he regained his strength. The woman thinks that they are all out of their minds, and yet just recently, everyone ignored her, because they considered her a spy of Balazit. Glenn turns to his aunt and says that, although they are related, his wife is now the mistress of Winterfell, so his aunt should not forget the basic things. The woman understands that Glenn is going there too, and the guy claims that they are tired after a long journey, so they will go first. After that, the two of them leave, and Auntie realizes that Glenn is covering for Balazit's daughter, and he shamed her, and it is obvious that something is wrong there. The woman understands that if everything goes on like this, the girl will finally take over all the power, and when she seizes power, and also gives birth to an heir, her position will weaken, and the aunt cannot allow this. The main character lies down on the bed. She thinks how tired she is, and they say that playing a woman in love is much harder than winning a war. But she thinks about it, and it seems to her that Glenn has softened towards her, and besides, the people of Winterfell have taken her side so quickly, she did not expect that. A voice from one of the servants can be heard from behind the door. The maid asks the mistress if she should heat some water for her bath, and the young lady tells her to do so, and then asks Rhys if she would like to come in for a minute, after which the girl hands the maid the jewelry. The girl asks the mistress what it is, and the main character says that the region of the Reina, located in the Balong fortress, is known not only for the production of iron ore, but also glass. The young lady claims that she brought this thinking about the maids. She says to give the jewelry to Yuri and Aiden too. The maid asks how things can be so valuable to them, and Nadia claims that they are so valuable because they are not jewelry, but simply glass products. The lady with brown hair says that when she first came to Winterfell, they helped her a lot, so the girl wants to pay them. Now the main character understands that one thing she realized when she returned to the past. This is that it is not worth trying to look better for people who hate you anyway, and it is much better to spend this time caring for your people and your surroundings. The maid thanks the mistress, after which she and the other maids talk while heading to the bathroom. One of them says that it is the first time he meets such a mistress. She is so kind and caring. Another maid says that according to the butler, she copes with her duties very well. However, the maid is a little worried about something. She asks what is wrong with the master, and whether he is not interested in their mistress at all. Balong Fortress, because she missed him. Another maid says that this is true, because their lady is so beautiful and has a good character. And where else can you find such a mistress? Another maid says that the young lady, although she does not show it, seems to be heavy on her soul, because last time, when he refused to spend the first wedding night with her, she cried so much. Then the girl with brown hair asks, "What about this idea?" The main character is in the bathroom at this time. When she plunges into warm water, she realizes that she was thinking why today it took longer to prepare the bath. It turns out that they paid more attention because she was gone for a long time. The young lady relaxes and thinks that her tiredness has disappeared, but then someone else enters the bathroom. The young lady turns around and wonders if the maids have come to serve, but when she sees who it is, she is surprised. After all, the one who entered turns out to be the Marquis. The girl in shock asks Glenn if this is it. She thinks what else it is. The guy claims that he also doesn't know how this happened, but he was told to use this bathroom because his needs renovation. The young lady seems to understand what happened. She remembers how the maid told the mistress to trust her, but she just thought that the maid was simply taking a responsible approach to her work. The girl thinks that this is the first time she sees Glenn so embarrassed. She says that it seems that the servants are playing a joke on them. The girl asks him if he will come into the room and wait a little, because she will soon finish and leave, and the Marquis claims that he will make sure that the guilty are punished. The young lady says that there is no need to do this, because they did it out of bad intentions, and were just thinking about her. Then the guy says he'll go, and the main character turns around and sighs. The boy suddenly stops and wonders if he really looked so insensitive that they had to resort to this. And then he turns around, and then sits in the bathtub next to his wife. The main character is completely shocked by this, and the guy is only a little embarrassed. The young lady asks if he has decided not to leave, but he only says that if he leaves now, rumors will start that he has rejected her again, and she will be in a difficult position. The young lady wonders if he is thinking about her now. Then she smiles and tells him to stay a little and come out. The main character thinks that there is nothing wrong with it, and he is so cute when he tries. The girl says that since this is how it turned out, maybe they can help each other wash like real spouses. The guy turns around a little embarrassed and says that it's not that he doesn't want it. And the main character only notices his scar and asks when it appeared, and then reaches out her hand. The Marquis tells her to wait, and the young lady apologizes and asks if she was too close. But he only becomes even more embarrassed and asks why she doesn't keep her distance at all in such a situation. The young lady says she was just worried, because it seemed like the guy was in a lot of pain. The young man thinks it would have been better if he had just left. After all, he can't help but look at her, so Nadia suggests just talking. She says that so much has happened in that time, and the Marquis says that, if you think about it, he never thanked her officially. But thanks to her, the lands of Winterfeld became much richer, because these lands were always limited in resources, and they did not have enough food and minerals. But now there is, and a powerful army at that. The guy says he is sincerely grateful to her. The main character just smiles and says that there is no reason. She understands that for the first time, someone has acknowledged her, and this makes her feel so happy. She also thanks Glenn, and he asks why. Then the girl answers that it was because he married her. The guy is even more embarrassed by this. The next day, the two of them are eating at the table. The maids whisper. One of them says that they seem to have had a great time together yesterday, and the other says that they were in the bathroom until dawn. The main character is happy because she got enough sleep and took a bath, and now she is eating with a smile on her face. But for some reason, the Marquis could not fall asleep after eating. He gets up from the table and says that today is the day to inspect the territory. One of the maids tells the master that he and the mistress can go and inspect the grounds. Glenn just remains silent, and the girl adds that he hasn't been there for a long time. And besides, a huge market opened there today, and there is something to see. The young lady is a little puzzled by this. She thanks Risa for her concern, but claims that she also has to deal with the things she has been putting off today. The Marquis only extends his hand to her and offers to go together, after which they find themselves at the market. Nadia says she heard there were a lot of people there, but she didn't think there were that many. The boy says that the Rhine regions have joined Winterfell, but suddenly the young lady is pushed by one of the passing people, and others, seeing her, ask if this is not the lady. The second villager says that she just looks like her, because the lady would not wear such cheap clothes. The woman asks if he thinks so, and there is another person behind him. He looks at the main character with an empty and at the same time furious look. Glenn says that since there are many people there today, it can be dangerous, and it seems that even the guards have already disappeared in the crowd, so he suggests going back home, and then again. But suddenly that same man runs towards them. He screams that this is the offspring of Balazit, and it's all because of her. But suddenly, the Marquis stands in front of his wife to protect her. And then he immediately puts the guy on the ground, and with a cold look, he asks who the hell he is. The boy lying on the ground tells the master that she is the daughter of Balazit, the worst enemy of the north, so he should not let himself be fooled. Because of her damn family, his brother died. The resident screams that they don't know how to fight properly, and then puts their soldiers on the front lines. The main character is horrified by this. One of the residents asks what is going on. Two ladies whisper that it seems his brother died because of the Balazit family. One of them says that it is of course true that they have bad relations with the South. But is it the lady's fault, after all? The girl sacrificed so much for Winterfell. But suddenly, a woman from the crowd screams. She immediately falls to her knees and asks the gentleman for forgiveness. The woman says her son made a huge mistake. She claims he was always a sickly child and stayed at home. And after the death of his only brother, on whom he could rely, he still cannot come to his senses. So she asks the master to spare him. The woman claims that her first son, Henry Clark, died in the Kalia expedition. And it is not the lady's fault. She claims that she knows that there is a severe punishment for desecrating the honor of the lady. But in memory of her first son, she asks him not to do this. Glenn is silent for a while, and then lets the guy go. He says he remembers Henry Clark. The woman doesn't understand what he's talking about, and the Marquis continues his speech. He claims that the boy was the one who fought bravely on the front lines for Winterfell. He also says that the young man died as a hero. Then that guy can't hold back his tears, and his mother too. At this time, the main character approaches the Marquise and says that everything is fine with her, so she asks me to make a problem out of it. She says that the truth is completely fine, and the Marquise turns around and says that since his wife says that it is fine, he will let it go. He bends down to the woman and puts his hand on her shoulder, and then claims that it must have been hard for her. The woman only thanks the lady with tears in her eyes, and then leaves with her son. The young lady thinks that for a while, she forgot how strong the hatred of the people towards Balazit is. And this is understandable, because her father has done a lot of things, and solving just a couple of their problems will not improve the situation much. That same evening, the main character is sitting with papers, but then a servant approaches her and says that it is already very late, and it is time to rest. The young lady asks if so much time has passed already. Then she says that she is fine and will work some more, and they can go. But Anil says that they will anyway. However, the main character interrupts him and says that she does not want to sleep yet, but promises that she will not stay up too long, so they should not worry. The servants exchange glances, then ask to be excused and leave. On the way, one of them says that he is really grateful that the lady is trying so hard for the residents, but isn't she overdoing it? Well, another says that she looks like someone who needs something to immerse herself in. Glenn is practicing with a sword at this time. He decapitates one of the dummies. And then he looks at it furiously. The Marquis remembers that guy at the market and realizes that the servers' losses were huge because Balazit put their people on the front lines during the expedition. And that's not all. He swings his sword at the mannequin again. And he thinks that the Duke is also an enemy of his parents, and Nadia is his daughter. But all this evil was done by her father, not her, because Nadia helps them, and if it weren't for her help, Winterfell would not have been able to prosper so much, and the girl is not their enemy. Anna, on the contrary, is a blessing. However, the fact that she was a member of the Balazit family had not gone away, and she must have also enjoyed how I saved his parents and walked all over innocent people. But then he throws away his sword and puts his hand to his head. Then the knights come to the training ground and say that the Lord is early today. One of them claims that recently he has been constantly a mistress, and he was not seen there. But his face has become so handsome, and is it really because he is a newlywed? But then the guy with the bags under his eyes turns to them, and the knight says he takes it back. He asks where the lady is, and if everything is okay with her. Then the knights gather in a semicircle and start gossiping. One of them says that the guy was really so gloomy when they mentioned the lady earlier, and the second says that their master is such a blockhead in these matters. Then the third asks if he still hasn't accepted the lady's feelings. The young man looks away, and the knights insist that everything seems to be so. One of them turns to the gentleman and says that no matter how passionate love is, feelings eventually cool down, and if he continues like this, he will regret it later. The knight with green hair asks if he thinks that there will be anyone else who will love him so sincerely, because the lady's feeling is real. The red-haired knight asks where else in the world there are girls like the lady, and that the Marquis is her type is his greatest blessing. The Marquis says that he knows it himself. He says that Nadia is too good for him. Then the knights agree and say that this is true, because she is smart, beautiful, and most importantly, She truly loves her husband. Then the knight asks his master what the problem is, because he thinks that if he loves her, what will happen to his mother and bedridden father? The guy is not going to blame Nadia for her father's crimes. But to love the daughter of the one who destroyed your mother is another matter, so he cannot accept her feelings. He thinks that they should not do this for some reason. Then Fabian runs up to the Marquis and says that the lady invites the gentleman to have lunch together. If he is not busy, he could come over. The Marquis is a little surprised by this proposal, but joins the meal. When they dine, they do so in silence. The main character thinks that it seems like he is still thinking about it, about what happened then. She says that she understands that the residents do not trust her because they know why her father has a bad reputation. But if the Marquis is suddenly worried about her, then he may not do this. But the guy just suggests not to talk about it. The young lady thinks that they can't just leave it like that, and she would really like to defuse the situation. So she tells Glenn that they are married, and if something happens, it would be better to talk about it. She asks if he remembers how she said that she would choose him if the choice came between him and his father. The girl also says that she didn't just say that. To be honest, she's with her father. But the Marquis just cries out in satisfaction. The main character is shocked by this, and the young man understands what he has done. He immediately puts his hand on his head and apologizes. He says he didn't mean to get angry. The main character just smiles and says that everything is fine. She understands that he is worried. So when Glenn is ready to talk, let her know. She says a little sadly that she will wait. But the guy thinks that this is not all because of her. And she's just the daughter of the man who killed his mother. But despite that, he likes her. The Marquis understands that he himself is to blame. The young lady then heads down the corridor to her room. But Fabian catches up with her. He screams for the lady to wait for him. The girl asks what's the matter. And the knight says that it seems that the gentleman has upset her because he has been training all day and hasn't even come into the office. The young lady only looks a little sad after these. The knight asks to listen and asks if the lady knows about the disaster that happened to his parents. The girl understands that he is talking about the fall of the carriage from the mountain ridge in which the Marquis died. Glenn's mother died, and his father still cannot leave from a serious injury. The knight says that the young lady's father was the culprit of this disaster. The main character says that she understands. The girl knows about it because her father clearly hated the Marquis and did not hide it at all. The knight adds that the master suffers greatly because he fell in love with the daughter of the one who harmed his parents. And it seems that because of what happened in the village, his suffering has only increased. Fabian claims that he wants to say that this is in no way because of her, and that there is nothing that can be done about this situation, so he tells the lady not to blame herself. The girl just smiles and thanks the knight, and then goes into her room. The young lady thinks that it is not that she did not understand why the people of Winterfell considered her father their enemy, but still it was not he who killed her mother and wounded Glenn's father. In her past life, the girl had heard this from him personally. The blonde claimed that it seemed that the Marquis had many enemies within his own territory, although this happens to any family. The lady with brown hair asked if her father had anything to do with this tragedy, but he only asks if she thinks he would use such a cheap trick, and says that if he had had a hand in this, there would be no one left alive. Besides, if the Marquis dies, then won't his son Glenn take his place, because he is much better than his father, and the Duke can't read his thoughts. If Glenn officially takes the place of the head of Winterfell, then they will only become many times stronger. So the blonde asks why he needs help with this. The young lady understands that she also heard that the Marquis's body was already stiff, and she does not think that this is the result of the accident. After all, the people in the south would not act without the father's decree, so they have nothing to do with it, and that means someone else is behind it, as the father said. And the traitor among his own could be the one who could easily penetrate the Marquis's bedroom, and the one who was trusted unquestioningly. The main character understands that she must find the real criminal, because if a civil war begins in the future, she must gather all her strength and cannot turn a blind eye to the problems within the state. But she doesn't understand how, because despite everything she's done for them, she still can't convince the people. But suddenly, someone calls the lady. It turns out to be a maid. She says that she has just brought a letter from the Duchy of Balazit. The girl looks at the letter, which says that it is intended for his beloved daughter, and writes in her heart that after her departure, the house was completely empty, and maybe she will write to him more often, as they agreed before her departure. The young lady understands that it looks like an ordinary letter, but by writing letters, he definitely means transmitting information, and any reasonable person will be able to immediately understand this hidden meaning. The young lady thinks that if anyone sees this, they might think that she is in cahoots with her father, so she wonders how he could just send such a letter. After all, he must be giving her a warning so that she can send him information about Winterfell's weak point. The maid asks if the mistress wants to write an answer and prepare a paper for her, but the young lady says no and she wants to think about the answer. Nadia understands that she cannot leave everything as it is. At this time, the Marquise's aunt is surprised. She asks if Glenn really stopped going to that girl. One of the servants says that he has given her gifts and heard that the master has been busy with work lately, and there is constant talk that their relationship has cooled. It seems that the fact that one of the locals attacked the lady with words about her being a spy became a problem, and they say that this man's brother was a valuable soldier of the master. The woman only smiles hearing this. She says that means there is a chance, even though the Marquis seems to be in love with this girl. Grace thinks that usually all doubts start growing from something insignificant and grow tied to the death of his mother. Then it will be much easier to shake him. The servant claims that the Marquis is already going too far, and that at first he entrusted the household affairs to the mistress, and now, as soon as she appears, she immediately runs away, and this cannot continue any longer. The guy claims that he can no longer calmly watch the Winterfell family pass into the hands of Balazit. The woman tells him not to worry and to leave it all to her, after which she gets up from the couch and sit down at the table with a paper. Auntie thinks that no matter how outstanding this girl is, she won't last there even a year. After which she writes a letter, and you think that the young lady is unknown, who from this family is her people. She then hands the black-haired boy a paper and tells him to pass it on with a smirk. She also tells him not to forget to tell them to burn the letter as soon as they read it. Glenn is training again from the very morning. This time it is archery. He hits the target with one precise shot. The main character watches him from behind. She thinks that this awkwardness between them needs to be sorted out for the sake of the future. She is worried that he has become afraid of her again. So the girl approaches her husband and asks if he can teach her too, and the guy asks what. Then she looks at the bow in her hand and wonders if she really wants to learn how to shoot it. Nadia asks if she can, but he just turns around without saying a word. The young lady realizes that, as she thought, he is uncomfortable with her again, but he only says that newbies take advantage of this, and she takes a simple bow out of the box. The main character smiles in response and takes the bow in her hands. The guy tells her to put the arrow in and pull the bowstring. Nadia, her hands shaking, asks if she's doing it right. Well, the guy just comes up to her and corrects her stance. He says that it's better to put her legs wider, and the girl had better stand straight and not bend her body, after which he tells her to pull the bowstring to the limit and helps her with this. The young lady is embarrassed by this, but when she shoots the arrow, it simply falls. The young man says that she will have to try to get used to it, and if she wants, he will set aside time for practice. Then the main character thanks him, and the guy talks about what happened last time. Nadia asks if he still worries about it, because she really is fine. But then he, a little blushing, thanks her for today. The main character, with a sincere smile on her face, says that you are welcome. A little while later, one of the maids heads into the garden, looking around to make sure no one is following her. And then in the bushes, she finds her basket with sewing material. She thinks it's also good that no one found it. After which the girl begins to embroider. She thinks how dark it is. But suddenly, someone screams out who she is. It turns out to be one of the knights. He asks what Idy is doing so late at night. The girl asks why he is there at such a time. The guy claims that the lady asked him to heat the room, so he is looking for firewood. But suddenly, he notices that the young lady's needles and threads are falling out from behind. So he asks if she is secretly working. The guy asks if close servants can do part-time jobs, since they are paid twice as much for caring for just one person. He immediately grabs the maid by the hand and screams at her to come with him, because everyone should know what she is doing. He claims that her mistress should be asleep by now, But Mistress Grace is still in the main house. The girl asks Jacob to wait and not to do this, because when she gets the money, she will split it with him. But the knight only screams if she wants him to have problems because of this, and then tells her to stop talking nonsense and go, after which he throws her into Mistress Grace's room. The woman asks what the noise is late at night, and the guy says that this maid serves the mistress, but she secretly does sewing as an additional income. Instead of taking care of her mistress at night, she was busy with other things. Jacob says that the mistress must throw her out of the mansion. The young lady, hearing this, is horrified. She says the lady that she did not betray her mistress, and simply, but the woman only looks at her and asks what she is talking about. And the blonde continues and says that she needs money. Their salary is not enough for expensive medicine for a loved one. The woman just clicks her tongue and asks what kind of medicine is so expensive. And the girl says that together, it costs about 1 gold coin. Grace just leans over to the girl and asks if the marquise could take care of her own, out loud. And then he hands the girl a bag of money. She says that this should be enough to pay for the medicine. The next day, the young lady greets Mrs. Grace with a smile. The woman says that they have not seen the Marchioness for a long time. She also claims that it was only lunchtime, and she was already at work. The young lady says that it is her personal business, and she writes a letter back to her father. The woman says that maybe she has disturbed her, but the main character says that not at all, and it is not such an urgent matter, so she offers her aunt to sit down. Well, the girl thinks, what happened? Because that woman is not the kind of person who can come to her first. Grace just sits down and claims that she came today to apologize. The young lady does not understand why she decided to do this so suddenly. And the woman says that, frankly, she thought that the girl was a spy pursuing her own goal. But she took such selfless care of Winterfell, and she heard the knights talking and realized that she was wrong. Grace says that she is very sorry for not recognizing the young lady's sincerity and for being so rude, and then asks if the girl will accept her apology. The main character immediately replies that, of course, she will do it, and the woman is a little shocked because she did not expect such a reaction. Nadia just smiles and says how glad she is that she spoke about it. After all, for her she is the same aunt as for Glenn, and henceforth she can feel comfortable. The woman says that she is very grateful to her for her mercy and asks if she has seen Glenn's father yet, because it seems that he does not have long left, so let the young lady go and say hello before he passes away. The young lady understands that when they first married the Marquise, there were always guards standing outside his father's room who did not allow anyone to enter, but then everyone considered her a spy and was afraid that she could harm him. And now the main character agrees and says that she will do so. The woman says that this is great, and she is worried that she has taken too much of the young lady's time. So she gets up from her seat and says that she will probably go. Then the main character asks her not to say that, because the girl was glad of her visit. After which, the young lady orders Adi to accompany the lady. The maid obeys, and after that, the young lady is left alone. She immediately looks with a cold gaze. A little while later, the girl, standing at the window, thinks about the words of that woman, but she said to visit the Marquise. And there must be a reason for such a sudden attitude. The maid approaches the mistress and asks if she would like some more tea. The main character refuses, and the maid apologizes to the mistress and asks if she really will go to visit the Marquise. Nadia says not now, but she has to go. She claims she has been meaning to for a long time, but has not had the opportunity. The young lady thinks she should take the chance and find out who is trying to harm him. The maid tells her mistress that she knows it is none of her business, but the young lady should be careful. The girl claims that she is talking about Lady Grace and that their relationship has changed so suddenly that she is very worried. The maid excitedly says that she is in no way slandering her, and she knows how much the woman tries for the sake of her family, but the maid is only worried about Nadia. The main character smiles and says that she will be careful, and then thanks Risa for her concern. But after that, when the young lady looks out the window, she notices something strange. She sees her maid and Grace there, the two of them talking, and the young lady wonders why they are there. Risa says that Heidi is the lady's close maid, but the lady and Grace no longer run the house, so she wonders why these two should be together. The main character thinks that this is somehow strange and becomes wary. That same day, she decides to visit the head of Winterfell. The girl comes there with the butler and looks at the lying man, and Gordon claims that it is Isaac Winterfell. Nadia will think that the man's face has become sunken. The butler approaches the lying gentleman. He claims that the younger owner has married them and asks Togo to look and see for himself how beautiful the new marquise is. Gordon asks if the gentleman didn't say that he always dreamed of holding grandchildren. He claims that the new marchioness is beautiful and smart, and the union of these two wonderful people will give many beautiful children. The butler holds his hand and asks him to open his eyes, then turns to Nadia and tells her to bow to the honorable marquise. The young lady thinks that Glenn must be every time he comes to him, and every time she wonders how much pain he is in. The main character bows and greets Sir Isaac of Winterfell. She claims that her name is Nadia, and she is the eldest daughter of the Duke of Balazit. She recently married and became a member of the Winterfell family. And even though she has little experience, she will do everything possible to avoid tarnishing Winterfell's reputation. Lady is so sorry for tricking Glenn into marrying her, but her words are still sincere, and she will only leave when she has made Winterfell a better place. After that, they leave the room, and the butler locks it. The main character understands that the room is very well looked after, and even the windows are locked. Now the young lady sees that everyone is attentive there, and no one can just enter and leave. Therefore, the girl thinks that, as expected, one of her own is behind the death of the Marquise. But suddenly, Glenn comes up behind them and asks Nadia why she is there. The main character only replies that she has risen a little, but wanted to visit the Marquise because she is now a member of the House of Winterfell. And then she turns to her husband and asks if they can now go to the Marquise together. When the young lady saw him in such a state, it was obvious that he was very lonely. The guy heard this and only agreed. Then Nadia says goodbye to the young man and says that they will see each other again, and then wishes him a good visit to his father. But suddenly, the main character remembers something else and turns around, addressing Glenn. And then she goes up to the guy and asks if he will give her a minute after he visits his father. A little while later, the main character is sitting in bed with a stack of papers. Risa says that it's time for the mistress to go to bed. It's already midnight. The young lady asks if the time has flown by so quickly. The other maid only says that she has heard that other families do not stay so long and that their mistress works the hardest. Adi says that the Marquis is also good and asks when he will admit that he has the most hardworking and kind virtuous wife. The maid asks the young lady if she thinks it would be better to use a love potion, after which she approaches the mistress, and he asks if she knows the legend of the 1,000-year-old tree. The young lady says that she is hearing about it for the first time. The maid adds that there is a large tree growing near the northern gate of the castle, and it is 1,000 years old. They say it existed even before the castle was built, so the tree is magical and filled with spirits. She will answer in the spring, only one day and only at night. There is a legend that if you pray to this tree for love, then you can make anyone fall in love with you. One of the maids cries out that it is true, and the tree has brought more than one couple together. Others say that maybe their mistress will make a wish as a joke, and they will check if it comes true. Then the young lady says that this is just a legend, and it turns out that they just want to look at the tree. The maids say that they only heard that it is very beautiful and blooms only once, but if they go out at night, the ugly maid will scold them, so they ask the mistress to go with them. The young lady agrees and asks when it blooms, and the maids say that in 3 days and thank their mistress. The next morning, Risa is sleeping peacefully in her crib, but suddenly she wakes up from some sounds. It turns out to be Adi. The maid asks why her colleague is up so early, and the girl replies that she just woke up early. The maid thinks it's a bit strange and wonders how long the girl sleeps anyway. Risa asks if Adi is going somewhere and if she needs to get ready, and the blonde replies that she just thought that she should go to the cafeteria to be there first. But then a bag of gold coins suddenly falls out of her dresser. Risa is shocked and asks if they are gold. And then he asks where Adi got so much money, but the blonde just turns around and says that she'll go. Risa is a little worried by her friend's behavior. After that, she gets dressed and goes into the dining room, where the maids are already eating. The girl wonders if Adi is there, but they agree to go to the cafeteria. Then the young lady approaches her colleague and says that she is responsible for the food today, and then asks if Adi has eaten yet. But the maid says that it turns out that she hasn't seen her today. Then Risa asks Hazel if she saw Adi in the dining room and claims that she is one of the lady's close associates. But the girl replies that she did not see her. Then the brunette thinks when she could have disappeared in the morning, and she has a rather secretive behavior, and also where the money suddenly appeared from. Therefore, the young lady thinks that something is clearly happening lately. A little while later, the mistress and three maids head towards that very tree. One of them says that today they are a cloud, and they are lucky, because on such a day the flowers will definitely bloom. And the other maid claims that she heard that the flowers of the 1,000-year-old tree are very beautiful. Then Risa asks if they know that inside the tree is the spirit of the daughter of the goddess of love. So she decides all love affairs. She suggests that the mistress pray for everything to be good for her, and another maid says that if everyone prays together, the wish will come true faster. The main character smiles and says that, of course, she is grateful, but aren't they too much of a burden on the spirit? After which Adi points to the tree and tells the lady to look there, because it is very beautiful. The young lady, looking in that direction, is surprised, and the maid asks if it is really beautiful. The main character just looks at the tree with pink petals, and Risa says that if the lady makes a wish, the Marquis will definitely change his mind. Nadia thinks that it is really beautiful, and it would be great if Glenn could see it. But then the young lady does not understand why she suddenly thought of him. The maid says that the mistress should close her eyes. After which, Rhys turns to the spirit of the tree and asks Togo to make the Marquis fall in love with their mistress, and let the two live happily ever after in Winterfell. The young lady thinks she is very grateful to her maid, but she and Glenn are not destined to be together, and someday she will have to leave Winterfell. But the girl folds her hands and makes a wish that Glenn will still find his love. After all, one day on this earth, Glenn will find happiness with a girl who will become the mistress of Winterfell. The young lady asks that one day he will definitely find someone who will truly love him, and maybe Glenn can make her happy, hello, even though he seems cold. But in fact, he is a very kind person. The young lady clenches her fist and wonders why she has such strange feelings then. One of the maids turns to the Marchioness and says that the lady's wish will definitely come true, because the Marquis of Winterfell and the lady are famous for their wonderful relationship, although their marriage was of convenience. But the tree will probably give its blessing. Risa asks the lady if they can stay there a little longer, because she doesn't know when the next time she will have the opportunity to see this tree will be. Nadia smiles and tells her to look at her health. She thinks, is it really fun to run away like this at night? After which, the girl thinks that it has already become cool. One of the maids turns to her and asks if it is cold at night, because the mistress is shaking. Nadia answers that it is just a little. Then Adi tells the girls that she needs to bring the lady back, and that they should stay there for now. And if she sees them, then let them say that they were together, and she left first. Then the girls thank their colleague, after which the blonde leaves with the lady. Risa thinks that in order to get there faster, it is better to go from the north than from the south. The girl wonders if there is a road she doesn't know about, while the main character walks with Adi. She says that it is cold in the north even at this time of year, although in the capital it is warm even at night. The blonde says that she didn't even notice, and apparently got used to the northern weather. The girl wife asks if she will ever be able to get used to it, and the maid replies that of course she will be able to see the girl there for a long time, so she will definitely get used to it. But suddenly, someone screams for them to stay put. It turns out to be knights. The young lady asks who they are. The blonde claims his name is Tristan, and he is the captain of the inner guard. He asks the lady to excuse him, but asks where she is going. The young lady claims to be going into the room, and then asks what happened. But suddenly Aunt comes out. She screams that this is a blatant lie, and asks if the girl thought that she would not understand that she was trying to sneak out of the castle. The main character says that she doesn't understand what she's talking about, and why there's a need to run at such a time. But the woman just screams how ashamed she is, and does the young lady think she can get away with it? Grace then unfolds the bundle of paper, and says that it is a letter that the girl sent to Duke Balazit. The young lady then asks what is wrong with it, because if she had read it, she could have understood that it was an ordinary letter to her father. The woman only says that Nadia is an impudent girl, and asks how she is not ashamed, after which she orders one of the servants to bring her a candle. And he brings a roll of paper to the fire, after which a secret inscription appears on it, stating that the girl has fulfilled her duty and will leave at noon. The woman says that if you pour lemon juice on the writing, it will disappear completely, but if you hold the piece of paper to a flame, it will appear. So Grace asks if the girl thought she didn't know about it. The woman cries out that if she had willingly lingered a little, she would not have noticed, and then the girl would have already managed to go to her father a long time ago. The young lady claims that she never wrote anything like that, and someone is clearly trying to set her up, because if she was planning to return to the capital, then why did she get married? But Grace just turns around and turns to the doctor, screaming for him to explain. The man is a little scared, and the main character thinks that everyone, including Glenn and Giscard, are gathered there. The doctor will say that for some unknown reason, the Marquis suddenly had a fever in the morning, and now his body is simply boiling, and if this continues, then his life is in danger. Everyone is shocked by such news. The main character asks if the woman wants to say that she tried to harm the Marquis, and Grace only claims that she herself knows about her sins, because after the girl came to Isaac, supposedly to visit, he became ill. She screams that this must not be the first time the girl has acted like this, and this letter is proof of that. After which the aunt tells Glenn to look at this shameless woman, because she tried to harm his own father, so the girl should be immediately seized and interrogated. Glenn just frowns, and Giscard tells the lady to calm down first, because she is seriously worried. The woman asks what it means to calm down. You ask if he calls you the Marquis's friend, because how can she calm down when her family is being harmed? The Lord only says that it hasn't been proven yet. The woman asks what he's talking about, and she wonders why the guy is on that girl's side again, since he's always ready to sacrifice himself for Isaac. Giscard says that it is worth starting with the fact that the lady has no reason to harm the Marquis, because Winterfell is headed by Glenn, and he personally would not want his daughter to see the benefit in taking the life of the Marquis. The woman simply hands over the letter and asks the Lord what the letter is about then, and why the illness worsened after this girl visited her brother, and now she was trying to leave the palace at midnight, as written in the letter. The young lady claims that she just wanted to see the 1,000-year-old tree bloom, and that's all. But the woman just turns around and asks if she's going to continue acting like a fool, because why did she try to take the shortcut instead of the northern gate, which leads straight to her chambers? She cries out to Glenn. Isn't he embarrassed by all this, and the Duchess of Balazit, the woman who killed his mother, and now she's trying to kill his father? The guy just looks at her furiously, and the woman thinks that this expression is very scary. But what's more terrifying is that the person he tried to give his heart to tried to destroy his family. Grace thinks that even if Giscard is on her side, the girl won't be able to go against Glenn. The guy just approaches Nadia and says that he wants to hear her version. The girl agrees. She asks if the lady says that the letter states that she intends to harm the Marquis and go back to the capital. The woman says that it is exactly so, and the evidence is obvious, so the girls better not pretend, while the young ladies say that it is very strange, because she wrote this letter in Glenn's presence. Grace is shocked by this, and the young lady turns to Glenn and says that he was there when she wrote this letter, and asks if he saw that she wrote something secret with fruit juice. Grace wonders what she is even talking about. She screams that this is complete nonsense, and the girl is only adding fuel to the fire. The young lady tells Glenn to answer, after which the guy claims that his wife is right, and she wrote this letter in his presence. So it turns out that someone forged the letter to slander his wife. The woman is shocked by this. She wonders why he still listened quietly, and also why Adie told her about Glenn. The guy just asks why his aunt did this, but she just screams in shock, asking what he was even talking about. And does Glenn really think that she is trying to set up the girl? She screams that it is someone's plot, and she also does not know what is going on. But the guy only comes up to her and says that she herself forged the letter and somehow worsened his father's condition. And then she made all this noise in the middle of the night, and now she claims she's innocent. The guy claims that if he had accused his wife now, the truth would never have come out. He asks if this is what the woman wanted, and if Mrs. Grace is to blame for the accident with the carriage. The woman only screams that this is all nonsense, and Isaac is her brother, and she would never do anything to her family. But the guy only claims that if the woman really worried about him so much, she would look for the real culprit, they tried to harm his father in order to blame Nadia, after which he orders the arrest of Mrs. Grace. She only desperately screams for Glenn to listen to her, because she really is not guilty. The woman thinks how this happened, and at what moment. She thinks that if that stupid maid had done her job properly, then everything wouldn't have turned out like this. And since the guy is looking for the culprit, who else does she have a chance? That's why the woman points at 80 and screams that this maid is to blame for everything, because she brought her that letter. Grace thinks that the girl was with her, and I can't avoid an investigation, because when the interrogation begins, they will definitely believe her more, because she is a member of the family, and so she can hang everything on the maid. But the main character only defends her maid. She says that her mistress was not enough, and now she is looking for a victim. The girl says that she thinks she should say this, but that I don't have any sick brothers and sisters. The woman thinks, what does this mean? And didn't the girl get a second job to pay for her sick brother's medicine? And if she has no reason why risk herself and take such a step? She remembers how one servant claimed that he was carrying firewood at the request of the mistress, and then accidentally saw this maid. Grace wonders if the story about Jacob passing by and seeing the maid who had lost her way is a complete lie. The woman understands that this stupid girl planned everything. The young lady approached the Marquise a little while ago. He asked if the Southerners weren't to blame for his mother's death. Then who was? The main character said that Glenn had claimed that he almost got into the carriage too. The guy agreed. And the girl says that if that's the case, he could also have been in an accident. And of course, this is just an assumption for now. But if this happened, it would only benefit one person. Glenn realizes everything in shock. He says that it would be beneficial to his aunt. But how can that be, since she is his father's blood relative? The main character says that she also hopes that it is not her, and this is just an assumption. Then the girl asks, why don't they check, because there is some way to prove it? After that, after consulting with Glenn, she chose the most suitable person, in whom she had deep trust. Nadia told 80 that she played the main role in this matter, and the maid obeyed her mistress. The main character says that in fact it was the end that she doubted that the lady was guilty, but fortunately or not, she was caught. The young lady had no idea that this would happen. Grace is now in complete shock, and Glenn approaches her and says that the lady will be presented in the court of Winterfell for charges of harming the Marquise. He tells her with a furious look that she shouldn't even dare count on protection, because she will definitely be thrown out of Winterfell. The woman does not believe in everything that is happening and only screams. Glenn then covers his face with his hand. The main character asks if he is okay. The guy claims that he didn't want to believe until the very end, because besides him and his aunt, his father had no one at all, and if not him, who else would take care of his father? The guy thinks how dare a woman kill his mother and live in his castle like a rat. Nadia worries about Glenn. He also says that he is indebted to her again, but the young lady only tells him not to think about it, since it concerns her. The guy calls his wife by name with a sad expression on his face. But then Giscard comes up to them. He claims that he will take charge of interrogating the lady, and the Marquise can rest assured that they will conduct a thorough investigation so that no one can escape punishment. Glenn says that he trusts him, and the Lord then thanks the lady for her help and asks if she should be escorted. The Marquise says that it is a good idea, and then he extends his hand to his wife. The main character did not expect this at all, but she takes his hand and heads to her chambers. After they arrive at Nadia's room, the young lady thanks her husband for accompanying her, and then he says he will go. The girl understands that he may seem calm now, but inside he is still grieving. The young lady is already turning around, but then the Marquise grabs her hand and pulls her into his arms. Nadia is shocked by this. She blushes a little and asks Glenn what happened, and he just keeps hugging her. The guy thinks that today it became clear who was involved in his mother's death, and although he should be sad, he is completely fine. After all, it turned out that the girl is not the enemy's daughter, and his heart is calm. The main character only pushes Glenn away a little and asks if he is okay. The guy apologizes and then says he has something to tell Nadia. The guy thinks he can't help but admit it. But he can't imagine Winterfell without Nadia, so he wants to say something. But then he just looks away and says that they should talk about it now, and he will choose another day. But the girl must be tired, so let her rest. The young lady wishes him good night and enters the room. but when she is alone, she wonders what it was. The next day, Glenn, sitting in his office, asks Guiscarda, did the woman want to make her son a lord? The man replies that, and after long hours of interrogation, it turned out that she went to great lengths to make her son a lord. It seems she has a lot of people in the city center, and she put a lot of effort into planning the accident. The Marquis says Grace is so blinded by greed that she tried to kill her relatives. The Lord then asks what they will do with her, and Glenn replies that the punishment must be proportionate to the crime. The Greenwoods property is to be confiscated. Guiscard says that his master is right, and he only adds that, of course, before that, they need to find out how the woman harmed her father. The guy asks if Grace confessed to it. Lord says he was just about to tell him, after which the man asks if the gentleman remembers the painting that hung in the Marquise's hospital room. Glenn asks if this is the painting that Grace gave him, and if something was found on it. Guiscard says that it is true, and that giving a sick person a painting depicting the expulsion of an underworld god was such a common occurrence that no one suspected anything. But after examining the painting, the man noticed that the paint on it was highlighted with the plant Toxus. The young man begins to understand what is happening. He asks what kind of plant it is, and the Lord answers that when it blooms, it has a bright color that can be used as a dye. And when dried, toxic substances are released from the flower, which is why this plant is prohibited. But a similar color became lighter because the resulting dye was mixed with another paint. This plant does not have such a strong effect on healthy people. Glenn adds and says that the sick, like his father, can be easily finished off. Guiscard says that everything is true, and if it were not for the master, the Marquis would not have been saved. Then the boy asks what they say about his father's condition and whether he can still be cured. Lord claims that there is no exact answer, but his condition is now stable, and he thinks that, for now, it is worth just waiting. Glenn says that when there are any changes, the Lord must let him know. The main character is training with a bow at this time, and she has clearly gotten better at it, because now she hits the target right on target. Fabian says that the lady is simply beautiful, and he heard that she is a beginner, but she did just great, and it seems that the gentleman's training helped her. The young lady doesn't understand what he's talking about, but then she remembers those same training sessions and blushes a little. But then he immediately pushes such thoughts away. The knight asks if everything is okay with the young lady. The main character does not understand what he is talking about, and Fabian claims that, thanks to her, they found out who tried to harm the Marquis, and now there is nothing more to worry about. So the young man asks how she is coping at all. The main character only asks the knights if they can finish earlier, believing she needs to go back now. And the guy agrees, after which the young lady leaves the training ground. She remembers the Marquis' words and thinks about what he was trying to say then. It may sound funny, but what if he wanted to confess his feelings to her, even though they are in a different relationship now? But the young lady wonders if she will be able to leave Winterfell then. At this time, someone reports that the team investigating the lair of the dragon Rio is returning. The main character says that they finally returned, and the atmosphere hasn't been very good lately, so it's good that they came. The man with gray hair says that it is true, because there is a lot of stuff there. He claims that he has never seen so much gold and treasure, so he thinks that they should be sold slowly so that the price does not fall. The main character agrees and says that they will leave this matter to him. The man says that it seems that they have found many relics and documents. Therefore, if they are put up for auction, there will be buyers for them. Arthur says that, thanks to them, Winterfell will be able to accumulate a good amount of money, no less than the Southerners. But suddenly, one of the knights screams for the master to look, and then runs towards him with an egg. Glenn is a little shocked by this. The knight says that this is the egg that he found, and Fabian asks if it is a dragon's. And then he excitedly cries out that it is amazing, and asks if a little dragon will hatch from it. The Marquis claims that perhaps the dragon there is no longer alive, since after the owner's death, it was forgotten. The other knight says that he thinks so too, but nevertheless it was a pity to leave him there, so he asks what they should do. Glenn thinks for a moment. He doesn't understand what to do with this egg, because he can't break the shell to check if the baby is alive, and he can't just take and sell a valuable item, which is apparently a dragon egg. But then an idea comes to him, so the guy turns to the main character. He asks if he can trust her with this egg, because the girl found Rio, so it is on her. The young lady asks if this is true and if I can trust her with such a valuable thing. The Marquise says that of course the chances of it hatching are extremely low, considering how much time has passed since the dragon's death, but it will be a unique decoration. The young lady accepts the egg and thanks her husband. After this, the dragon egg is placed in the office, and the maids immediately look at it with interest. One of them claims that she would never have thought that she would see something like this in real life, and Risa says that if the baby really hatches, then they will have to raise the little dragon. The blonde says how cute he will be, and another maid asks if it will be possible to tame him, because then the mistress will become a dragon rider or a tamer. The main character approaches them and says that they shouldn't wait for this, because a lot of time has passed since the death of the adult dragon, and even if it was a real dragon egg, it would not have survived until now. One of the maids says that again, the mistress still hopes for hatching, because they see that the young lady would also like this. The main character just smiles. She thinks that this is the first gift that Glenn gave her, so she will take care of it. Suddenly, Gordon knocks on the door. The Marquise turns around and asks what happened, and the butler says that a message has just arrived from the capital. He claims that Lord Li Jiho killed the poisonous dragon Gatabiru in the south of the country. Glenn asks what he is talking about. The main character understands that it seems that Gordon is talking about something that happened in the past. Although Li Jiho gained some fame for his expedition to Calais, his true glory came only after he slew the poisonous dragon Gatabiru. In addition, he became a hero of the war with demons. But the main character wonders what will happen in the future. The butler adds that the capital is now buzzing with news, because if in the north there is a war hero, the Marquise, in the south is the dragon hunter Lord Li Jiho, and Gordon fears that this will lead to the strengthening of the south's influence. The Marquise claims that whatever they will do what they must, because to each his own. At this time, Duke Balazit enters the hall. He asks if this young man is behind the death of Gatabiru. The blonde claims that he is greatly honored that the dragon slayer himself has come to them. Li Jiho tells him to stop joking like that, because the duke is flattering him. But the protagonist's father not only tells him to come back, after which the guy bows down and says that the 27 reavers are returning to the duke. The blonde says that the boy did a great job. He thinks that the dragon found in Valen Castle was a weak spot for the boy, but now that he has earned the honorary title of Dragon Hunter, the duke knows that he will not go down without a fight. After which, the duke says that Li Jiho is just in time, and he has someone to introduce the guy to. After which, he calls Aiden to him and claims that he is his nephew. He graduated from the academy this year and returned to the capital. Aiden says that it is very nice to meet you, and then claims that Lord Jiho's fame has reached distant academies. The brunette says his name is Li Jiho. He claims that he is not that great and is simply enjoying the duke's patronage. Li Jiho thinks that this nephew, who according to the Duke of Balazit, who only has a daughter, will inherit the title. The guy understands that if he is the next duke, then it would be worth finding a common language with him. The nephew says that the guy looks exactly as they say about him, and it is not surprising that the duke was thinking about marrying him to his cousin Nadia. The lord just smiles tensely and thanks them for such words. Then the duke comes up to them and says that it's enough chatter, because he should go already. The bloggers claim that they have prepared the best booze in the south to treat him, after which he approaches the lord and says that, of course, they will reward him not only with drinks. He asks if the guy has anything he would like to ask for. After all, today they are celebrating his achievements, so he can ask for whatever he wants. He can also petition the king to be knighted. The heart says that such an opportunity does not come often and will give him time to think about it, because the night will be long anyway, after which he leaves and tells Aiden to join in. The brunette is left alone. He thinks that he has already been deprived of what he wants. At this time, the main character sits and watches the dragon's egg. She thinks that the egg's color has changed somehow, and maybe it depends on her mood. At that moment, the Marquise enters the room. The young lady asks if he has arrived, and the guy claims that he did not want to disturb, but the girl replies that everything is fine. Nadia recalls the events of that day and thinks that the relationship between them is somehow awkward, because this is the first time they were alone after that day. The guy claims that he wanted to say something last time and is trying to say it now, but screams are immediately heard. After he opens the door, he asks what happened, and the maid, breathing heavily, reports that the senior gentleman has woken up. Afterwards, they all go to Glenn's father. The eldest gentleman asks if his son managed to marry Balazit's daughter while he was unconscious. Father asks if Glenn is saying that she foresaw the Black Doom, bought and sold medicine, devised a plan to take over Balong Castle, found the location of the Rio Dragon, created new forms of armor, developed new farming methods, and uncovered Grace's plot. The boy claims that everything is correct. Then the older gentleman asks if the boy is saying that the young lady did all this out of love for him. Glenn says yes, but his father claims that no matter how quickly the situation changes, it still won't be able to change their financial situation. Gordon says it was love at first sight, and the gentleman is indeed very handsome. His father claims he looks like his mother, but there is no point in dwelling on that. Glenn sighs and says that in general, he wanted to say that Nadia is not a Balazite spy, and she is an ally of Winterfell, so there is no need to fear her. Isaac only asks if Glenn warns him in advance not to treat her badly, but the guy claims that this is not entirely true, after which he silently looks at his wife. The young man thinks that his father is partly right, but he did not want to hurt Nadia's feelings, so he continued to justify. The elder gentleman just laughs. He says that if the girl were a spy, Glenn would quickly figure her out. Isaac says that his son used to be a bore, but now he has suddenly become a caring husband, and it is true what they say about children being born upside down. The man says that he thinks his son is very passionate. The main character agrees and, a little embarrassed, tells her father that the guy is always there. The man smiles, and the butler tells the Marquise that they thought he might be interested to know how the finances at Winterfell have changed over the years. So they prepared a book for this purpose. Gordon asks if the gentleman will look at it, and the man replies that he wanted to know about it, and the butler is a fine fellow. Isaac leafs through the book and thinks that no matter how much Glenn says that the finances are fine, it is not enough to calm him down, because there were expeditions on this barren land, and quite unsuccessful ones. But then the man looks at the book in shock, after which he turns to the butler and asks if these are really their finances. He claims that there seems to be something wrong there, because although the new lady has done a lot, there is something too much there. Gordon says he knows it's hard to believe, since he had a hard time doing it himself, but now their Winterfell can only rival the South in wealth. The elder gentleman is shocked by this. He turns to the young lady and thanks her, because the girl did a good job. Isaac says he was always worried about the financial issue, but now he is calm. The main character asks what her father is talking about, because it is not only her merit, because they all did it together. And of course it all worked out, because Glenn trusted her. Dad says they're doing so well that they don't have to worry about dying. All that's left is to wait for the heir. The main character asks, a little puzzled, what he's talking about. And the man says that of course by law their family should have a successor, and they both look healthy, so he doesn't think it's worth worrying about. Then there is an awkward silence. The first to break it is the father. Isaac asks if he is wrong, and then he asks why they are silent. The main character wants to tell him something, but then thinks that it is better for her to remain silent. After all, no matter how close the girl was to Glenn, in the end it would be she who would leave Winterfell, and if later there was a woman he truly loved. But then the young lady turns to her father and then says that the Marquis said he does not intend to approach her. Isaac is shocked, and Glenn looks at his wife in shock. He remembers how he told her that he would never see a loved one in Balazit's daughter. The guy curses it and thinks that even though this situation was a misunderstanding, it cannot be denied that he offended Nadia. But the guy thinks that he apologized. Then the father turns to Glenn and asks what the girl is talking about and whether he really told her that. The main character tells her father that it is not Glenn's fault, because it was she who fell in love with the Marquis and forced him to marry her, and you can't force a person to love someone he can't. However, the girl thinks that it is obvious that the Marquis would like to see an heir, because this is the most important thing in a noble family. There is only one way to avoid divorce and keep the family name intact. Then the main character asks, how about the Marquis taking a concubine? But the guy is clearly not thrilled with such a proposal. The father asks why Glenn needs another woman if she is there, because the girl herself would not want to raise someone else's heir. The main character says that, unfortunately, if the Marquise wants this, she will not resist. Isaac tells the young lady that he has had enough and asks Gordon to come out too, as he thinks he should talk to Glenn. After they are left alone, the father asks how this happened and why there was such a conversation at all, because it is obvious that the girl is dear to him, and as soon as the father opened his eyes, Glenn was hugging her. The guy replies that he couldn't do anything. At first he thought that Nadia was a spy sent by Balazit, and didn't think that she would take his words so close to heart. Isaac asks if his son has now changed his mind. The Marquis replies that he has. And then the elder gentleman tells him to go and correct this misunderstanding, and also apologize for all the offense he caused. The father claims that he sees that the girl is a very good person. Then the boy agrees with his father and says that he will do so. The young lady is already lying in her bed at this time. She thinks that sleep does not come at all and ponders what to do. The girl remembers her words to the concubine, and she understands that on other days she would have gotten away with it. But now everything is different, and now Glenn trusts her completely, and if he really confesses his feelings to her and wants to be with her, the young lady would not be able to refuse. And besides, the older gentleman asked why Glenn needed another woman if there was Nadia. After all, she herself would not want to raise someone else's heir. The main character imagines Glenn and the child from another woman. The young lady realizes that she doesn't even want to imagine such a thing, but she realizes that if she gets caught up in this, all her plans will go to waste. Nadia understands that she must not forget the past, and if she remains in the house of Winterfell, then as before she will be drawn into politics. But the girl understands that she must not forget what her ultimate goal is. Suddenly, someone knocks on the door. It turns out to be the Marquis. He asks if he can come in. The main character immediately gets up from the bed and says that of course you can. After that, the young man enters the room. He says that he would like to apologize, because all his words about the girl being a spy for Duke Balazit were the result of his own rash judgment. Therefore, the young man asks him to forgive her. The main character remembers her relatives. She understands that she has been wrongly accused or insulted more than once. But no one apologized, and the guy is completely different. So the main character says that everything is fine. And the guy just approaches her and says what he said last time, after which he approaches the young lady and puts his hand on her cheek. The main character closes her eyes from this. The young man leans towards her, and their lips almost touch in a kiss. But then the main character pushes him away and tells him to wait. The guy is a little shocked by this, and the young lady thinks that she promised, and it is not right. So Nadia decides that she must admit that she married the guy only to escape from her father's clutches. The young man asks if everything is okay, but the main character just looks at him seriously. She claims that she also has something to say. Nadia understands that if the guy gets angry and says that he will divorce her right now, then nothing can be done. The young lady needs to admit that the girl married him by deception and end it. Glenn asks what she wants to say. The main character thinks that if she explains how desperate she was, then will he be able to understand her. Then the young lady asks if Glenn will listen to her. And after that, the two of them go out into the garden. The guy claims that a lot of things are in bloom there. The young lady agrees with him and says that it is already summer in the north, so it has become warmer. The Marquis looks at his wife and wonders if he was too hasty, because he must admit that he doesn't know how to kiss either. But then he turns around, a little embarrassed. The main character says that it seems like they just got married recently, and several months have already passed. The guy says that if you think about it, this is their first walk after the wedding, and he himself thinks that he was too indifferent to his wife, because the girl went all the way to the north to find him, and now, when he tried to kiss her, Nadia pushed him away. Now the guy is thinking how pathetic he is, and the main character turns to him. The girl asks if Glenn trusts her. He claims that there was a misunderstanding before, but now he of course trusts her. The guy wonders why there are such questions, and the young lady sadly says that she actually has something to confess, and asks if Glenn can. You listen to her promising not to get angry. The guy is a little shocked at first, but then he gets down on one knee and says he swears that the girl won't tell. He promises to believe her. The main character remembers all the moments they spent together. She thinks that if she tells the truth, Glenn will be disappointed in her. Although the young lady's feelings were not sincere, She truly enjoyed spending time with him. Nadia thinks that she has such a strange feeling and wonders why her heart is pounding so much. But then tears start to flow from her eyes, and the girl does not understand what it is. The Marquis approaches her. He wipes away her tears and says that the girl wants to say that she did not marry him out of love. The young lady is just wondering how he found out, but the guy now understands what's going on. He says he has no doubt of her loyalty to Winterfell after what she did. The Marquis says that thanks to the girl, Winterfell is only blossoming, and he too. The guy claims that a lot has changed, but the more he thinks about it, the harder it is for him to believe that such a wise woman could fall in love with him, a stranger. But even if it was all a lie, Nadia is very important to him now. So the guy asks what truth she wants to tell. Then the young lady says that she actually hates her family and tells the whole story. The Marquis, in shock, asks if the Duke and her sister tried to finish off Nadia. The main character says that there is, after all, and he wanted to use her as a pawn and then get rid of her. And if she had stayed with her father, he would have definitely finished her off. And in order to save herself, she had to flee from Balazit. And that was when the young lady met the Marquis, someone who hated Balazit as much as she did. Someone with the status and power to stand up to Duke Balazit, and someone who would avenge her. The main character says that because of Togo, she had to lie, and she is sorry. Nadia says that if she continues to help in the development of Winterfell to resist Balazit, then it will be good for the guy. And one day, when the Balazith family falls, she will quietly leave Winterfell. The Marquis is shocked by this. He asks what it means that she will leave, and the young lady says that she will definitely file for divorce. After all, the guy also doesn't want to stay with a woman he doesn't love. Nadia apologizes and says that it's all her fault. That's why she suggests getting a divorce when everything is resolved, and the guy finds a new wife. The young man suspected that his wife had secrets, but he didn't even think that everything was so serious, and now he understands what happened. The Marquis was so focused on his property that he didn't care about her. The girl found the best means to achieve her goal and built a sequence of her plans, after which she did not object to being called a woman blinded by love. But at the same time, she desperately longed for revenge. The main character asks him if he is very angry. The guy thinks that if you think about it, there is nothing to be angry about. And the girl's hatred for Duke Balazit is nothing but good luck for him. After all, the young lady has somehow revived Winterfell, and the boy will never meet such a wise and capable person as Nadia again. The young lady will take revenge, and the boy, in turn, will get rid of his sworn enemy, Balazit. But is this the rational approach when you get what you want? The young man thinks that this is of course so, but for some reason the guy feels like his heart is cold. The main character just looks at him and asks if this surprised him very much, and if the Marquis is disappointed. But he replies that it is not like that at all, and he himself tries to think rationally because he was simply embarrassed that the girl kept saying that she was in love with him. But what if she had not started helping Winterfell? But now the young lady is probably faced with even more difficult tasks than before, so it is worth putting aside your emotions and thinking only about the interests of her part of her family. Glenn sighs heavily and says that you are certainly disappointed, but to think that there is nothing to be angry about. After all, Winterfell only thrives thanks to Nadia, and he wants to destroy House Balazit one way or another. And the girl had no other choice, so he won't blame her for lying about her feelings for him. The young lady says she didn't think he could understand her, and thanks Glenn. The guy says that now they can say that they have a profitable partnership, and there is no longer a need to lie that she loves him. Then the main character smiles and says yes, but she thinks that, as the guy said, they now have a profitable partnership, so she shouldn't worry for no reason. But that same evening, the Marquis practices archery, and the guy thinks since when he can't take his eyes off a girl even when she's just smiling. He was surprised to hear that he was to have an heir from another woman. Now he puts his hand on his head, but then a knight runs up to him and shouts that the gentleman has a red liquid. The guy looks at his hands and realizes that he pulled the corners too hard. And then he turns around and says that everything is fine, so the knight shouldn't worry. The Marquis thinks he was going to tell the girl to stay with him. He remembers the young lady talking about divorce and how it was all her fault. Fabian worries about his master, and the young man just puts his hand on his head and says that now everything is clear. After all, it is not Nadia who is in love with him, but he with her. The knight understands that the master is behaving strangely and wonders if something happened between him and the mistress. But Risa also says that the lady has had neither appetite nor energy lately. But suddenly, one of the maids runs up to the Marquis, after which she says that the Marquise told him to come to the mistress's chambers. The guy is a little shocked by this, but agrees. The main character is sitting on her bed. She remembers the maid saying that the master would be there tonight, and the Marquise insisted that they have an heir. Suddenly, someone knocks on the door and says he is coming. It turns out to be Glenn. The main character asks if the Marquis sent him, and then tells him not to worry because she understands. The girl turns around and tells the guy to sleep on her bed, and she will lie down on the couch. But the Marquise grabs her hand and then claims that they are out of need and he will sleep on the sofa. The young lady says she can't allow that, and then asks if they can sleep on the same bed. The girl says that the bed seems big and thinks that they will be comfortable, but the young man is a little embarrassed by this, after which they both lie down on the bed, but a little far from each other. The Marquis is a little shy. He thinks about how he can calm down, because the girl has nothing against it, and he shouldn't be selfish. After which he turns to the main character and says that it must be hard for her. The young lady just remains silent with a sad expression on her face. Then the guy looks at her and thinks that he should say something. The young man thinks what an idiot he is, but Nadia says that everything is fine now because she is there, and Winterfell is the most inaccessible place for her father, especially if something happens. Then Glenn will help her. Then the guy immediately jumps out of bed, and then he claims that he will definitely protect her. The young lady wonders what this means, and the guy claims that they are partners in any case, with a common goal, and while they are together, nothing should harm her, so the guy will protect her. The main character understands that she said that she doesn't love him, and it's all a pretense, and the guy says that he will protect her. But even her blood relatives and people she trusted turned away and betrayed her. Nadia wonders why he says that. And at this time, the guy approaches the main character and hangs over her. He thinks that if the girl doesn't mind, then would it be greedy to ask her to stay? But at that very moment, a pillow blocks his way. The girl shyly asks if he minds if she just sits like this. The young lady thinks that it is impossible to use such a good man and be near him. After all, the guy will definitely meet a worthy girl, more worthy than her. The main character asks Glenn to forgive her, because if the girl's plan succeeds, then she wants to leave Winterfell, and in her thoughts, Nadia adds that it is for him. The guy is a little shocked by this, and then he smiles sadly, says that he understands and heard the young lady, and then takes her hand with his. And kissing her, he affirms that no matter what happens, he will try to help her. The next day, the maid goes for a walk with the mistress. The main character says that there is warm weather in the north too, and asks if maybe in such weather all the flowers will bloom. But when the girl turns around, she does not see her maids, but only hears their cries about something sweet. When the young lady turns around, she sees the Marquise there. The maids say that the gentleman looks so brave. They say that it is hot outside, and why is he dressed so warmly? The main character sighs. Now she understands why the maids wanted to take a walk so much, but the girls tell their mistress that their Marquise is beautiful. Risa asks if it's a little strange that his lordship won the annual fencing tournament with the best swordsman of the empire, and he even won the imperial archery tournament, so there is no other knight like him on the entire continent. Nadia thinks how cool this is, and that it explains the possibility of love at first sight. She thanks the guy for being so good. One of the maids says that she heard that Mr. Lee Jiho is very popular in the south lately, but he still can't beat their Marquise, because Mr. Jiho only wields a sword, while theirs is a master of both sword and bow. Risa says that's not all, and he is known for his wits on the battlefield, and he is taller. But then the young man comes up to them from behind and agrees. They say that he really is taller. The maids are very scared by this, and the guy, smiling, adds that his shoulders are also broader. The main character laughs and asks what he is talking about, but the young man only looks at her and remembers how the girl said that she wanted to leave Winterfell. He thinks he said he heard Nadia, but he didn't say he would follow her words. The guy regrets everything he said to her, and it drives him crazy, because he's tired of her after her family betrayed her. Now he turns to the main character and says that if she has time, would she like to continue her archery training? He thinks that he is not going to let the young lady go, or even if he does not have the opportunity to turn back time, he will create a new opportunity to convince Nadia, after which they go into the forest on horseback. The young lady is a little surprised and asks her husband why they are there. The girl thought that he wanted to practice archery and does not understand why they are there. But the guy says that the fastest way to improve skills is practice. The main character is shocked, saying that she can barely draw the bow and is not even sure that she will hit the target. But the young man tells her not to worry, because he will keep a close eye on everything. The main character then asks where all the other knights are. She finds it strange, because they came to such a remote place, so they need security. The Marquise, blushing a little, replies that the other knights have not yet finished their training, which is why he did not take them. But he understands that this was a lie. After all, a few hours ago, one of the knights asked if the master wanted to know how to change the lady's mind, and the other cried out whether this really meant that Nadia's feelings for him had cooled. But this was expected, so they repeatedly told the gentleman that he had to stop avoiding her feelings. The guy angrily replies that that's not the point. He thinks that he can't reveal Nadia's secret to them, so all he can do is keep quiet. Ward cries out for the master not to worry and to trust them, because they, the northern guys, always keep their word. The green-haired knight says that the guys from the south don't know anything and call the northerners incompetent in love, but they are very wrong. And your knight says that recently, the average aristocrat has been attracted to unreliable men like the northerners. They are already starting something like a lecture. The red-haired ward tells the master that now the Knight of Winterfell will conduct a special lesson for him. And to begin with, the Marquis should suggest that his wife practice archery in the forest without their presence. So now the guy is talking to his wife and saying that if something happens, he will protect her, so the girl shouldn't worry about security. After which the young man suggests starting training for a real fight. This was the second step in the knight's plan, namely to seem cool to the young lady. After which, Glenn pulls the bowstring and says that there is game roaming nearby. The main character is a little shocked by this. She wonders why so suddenly. And at this time, a monster crawls out of the bushes. The knights had sent it in advance, and the Marquise finished it off with one blow. The young lady approaches Glenn and says that she heard that the boy is the most outstanding archer in the entire empire. But this really amazes her. The Marquise just clears his throat sheepishly and asks if she would like to try drawing a bow. The main character says what she wants, but she must have left her bow on the horse. Then the young man hands her the bow from his hands. He claims that he made it especially for Nadia, but he himself understands that this was the third step in the knight's plan, namely to prepare a special gift. Nadia thanks her husband and asks when he managed to do this, but she herself realizes that he is acting a bit strange today. The main character looks at him, but hears some noise behind the stone, and when she looks a little closer, she sees a piece of red hair there. Now the young lady begins to understand what is happening. She assumes that the fact that they were left alone there, and the game suddenly appeared, was planned with the help of the knights. The two are sitting behind the rocks, and one of them says that it seems that Milady liked the gift, and everything is going according to plan. The girl remembers the gossip about northerners being inept in love relationships, but this situation is so cute. Then the Marquise points to one of the trees and invites the young lady to try to shoot at its center. The lady with brown hair agrees and pulls back the bowstring, then releases the arrow, but she falls before she reaches the tree. The Marquis says that she has become much better. This was the fourth step of the knight's plan, in which Glenn was to praise Nadia without fail. But then he looks at his wife and realizes that something is wrong because she has bowed her head. But the main character can't hold back and laughs. The guy asks why his wife is laughing. The young lady says she just wants to, but you think that at first the girl thought he was a really cold and scary person, but it turned out that he was just inexperienced in such things. After which Nadia turns to her husband and says that he is very affectionate. The guy is a little embarrassed by such words, but a little while later it starts to rain. The young lady looks up at the sky and asks Glenn if even the weather was part of his plans. The guy asks what she's talking about, and then he turns to Nadia and, a little embarrassed, wonders if she really figured it all out. He then covers her with his cloak and tells her that there is an abandoned hut nearby, so they can stay there for a while until the rain stops. The young lady agrees, and they head to that very hut in the middle of the forest. The Marquis says that it seems the rain won't stop that easily, but they may still have to spend a fair amount of time there. But after the young master looks at his wife, his face immediately turns red. After all, the young lady is completely wet from the rain. Glenn covers her with his cloak and asks if the girl is cold. The main character, in response to such actions, is a little embarrassed and thanks her husband. After which, the young lady looks out the window and says that it would be better if it snowed. The Marquis does not understand why she suddenly wanted snow, but then he says that if you think about it, in the south there is almost no snow even in winter. The young lady replies that this is true, and her childhood dream was to make a huge snowman, but it did not come true because there was not enough snow. The Marquis says that in the north in winter, the snow falls up to the chest, but he did not make a snowman either. The young man says that if the opportunity arises in the future, they should mold it together and make it huge. The girl thinks that she had many different jobs the other day, but now she is having a good time listening to the sounds of the rain, and it seems that her soul is becoming calmer. The Marquis says that his wife can lie down when she is tired. The young lady with a smile on her face thinks that the guy will not calm down, and then he puts his head on his shoulder. Glenn is a little embarrassed by this. A little while later, two knights are wandering through the forest. One of them says that he did not expect that the rain would start so suddenly, and because of it, they lost their master. But then they see a hut in the middle of the forest and decide to look there again. But after they go there, they see their master sleeping peacefully with his mistress, so the knights decide not to disturb them. A little while later, the main character is sitting at the table with her husband. The butler says that there is an intensive convergence of new agricultural tools, and when examining the lands, one could notice the first initial reaction of the feudal lords to the innovation. The Marquis claims that it was also said that the peasants who migrated to the new lands adapted well there, and it was all thanks to Nadia. The young lady says that she is grateful to the Marquis for such words, but she certainly was not the only one involved in all this. The main character thinks that lately everything has been like a dream, and her plans are calmly coming true. If you compare her current life with her past, everything is very peaceful and warm now. Nadia wants time to stop at this moment, even though she knows that such a wish is quite selfish. But then the two exchange glances, and Glenn turns away in embarrassment. The main character just laughs in response to this, but suddenly a maid runs into the room and screams that she has an emergency message. And then he says that monsters are attacking. The most important people in the Winterfell family gather at a round table. One of them claims that a couple of people have been hurt in a village located along the northern divide, and the damage was reportedly not very significant. Another man says that, however, it will not be long before the swarms of monsters reach densely populated villages. Glenn asks if there is anything else to discuss, and if they should immediately begin preparing for the expedition. The wards say that they will set out on their journey immediately after preparation. Nadia asks her husband, what about testing the new weapon, so that on this campaign it can be tested in real combat? Giscard agrees with the lady's point of view, and says that, moreover, near the Yerez mountain range, which is the goal of the expedition, no one will see it, and they will be able to keep this weapon a secret. The Marquis agrees, and then says that they will do so. He says that the nature of the place must first be ascertained, but the young lady says that she has something else to say, and then he asks if she can join the expedition. The guy is a little shocked by such a question. One of the men sitting at the table says that, until now, the girls have not participated in the campaign against the monsters, and it is too dangerous. The young lady understands that they are more active in their opposition than expected, but she absolutely must be on this expedition to successfully complete that matter. But then the Marquis only asks if there are any reasons for refusal, and then looks at his wife, and he says that this is none other than Nadia, and if we remember the feats she has accomplished, then the girl has the greatest right to participate in this expedition. Glenn claims that it will be safe because he will protect his wife. After that, they head to the battlefield with monsters. Incidents often occur when monsters living in the demon land invade the human world through the gate. Since the cause is unknown and the invasion cannot be prevented, it is a disaster that must be responded to as quickly as possible. Glenn orders the attack to begin and keep their distance. After that, the archers start shooting at the monsters. The guy, sitting on his horse, says that, as expected, regular arrows don't work on them, and another knight asks if he can give the order to retreat. But the Marquis tells him to wait a little, and then, when he sees that the monsters are close enough, then he shouts to the knights to retreat. Another knight tells the lord that everything is as he said. The monsters pursue the horse archers who were the bait, and their formation is completely disorganized. The Marquis says that monsters are just a herd of fools with a large build, and it is not difficult to defeat them if you use your brains. After which, the guy takes his sword out of its sheath and says that he will try to hunt the mice that are cornered, and orders the knights to attack. He plunges the monsters into eternal sleep one by one, and the main character watches all this from a cliff. After which, the knights of Winterfell win. The young lady says that if that many monsters descended on their land, they would cause so much damage. The knight tells the lady not to worry, because they have a master, and this time they won without a single casualty. He also says that having a master like them in the north is a joy to the soul. The main character agrees with Fabian. She says that Glenn is really encouraging. The girl thinks that after the wedding, she often heard about Glenn's exploits from the warriors, but seeing everything with her own eyes is even more amazing. The girl thinks that Glenn has played his part, and now it is her turn. The young lady tells the Marquis that she has something to talk to him about. The guy asks what it is, and Nadia answers that, with the help of the monster's remains, she wants to create a unique product that will be produced only in their area. The guy is a little shocked by this, and the other knights tell the lady that they tried to benefit from this huge amount of leftovers every time they fought monsters. However, in reality, they are useless, and it is best to burn everything before it causes too much trouble. The young lady just smiles and asks what if she knows how to take advantage of them. The two men are a little shocked, and the Marquis asks if Nadia could tell him how. He understands that the girl clearly has some kind of plan, since she has always helped Winterfell with her ingenuity. The main character says that the remains of monsters can be used as excellent medicinal material. Glenn says that they asked their doctor earlier, but he said that there is nothing useful about you monsters. The young lady claims that this is because the method of making it is unknown to the world, and she accidentally read about it in an ancient forbidden book as a child. The guy asks if she wants to say again that the information she accidentally learned could be useful, and the main character agrees. The girl understands that their doubts are expected. She also knows this all from a past life. More precisely, you are in a war with demons that will begin in the future. It was noted and discovered that demons use parts of their own kind as medicine. The main character says that the volume of agricultural production is important, but for the long-term prosperity of their territory, other industries must also be developed, so trade must be revived. It is for this reason that turning the remains of monsters into a special product is a very important mission for Winterfell. The guy says that his wife is right, and if they can create this special product, it will become their reliable resource. The main character says that she will give an example and points to Meduso, a similar monster. The girl claims that even though he has no legs, he will still be useful enough. The young lady says that the byproducts of the jellyfish can be used to make use of the snake venom that is in her hair, and in fact, there is barely a noticeable difference between the medicine and the venom, so they can use it. But the main character doesn't have time to finish before a snake attacks her. The girl is very scared of this. However, the Marquis immediately pulls her to himself and decapitates the snake. After which, he asks if his wife is okay. The girl, a little scared, says that she's fine, and then asks how Glenn is. The guy just hugs her and says that it makes her happy and is such a relief. The new one suddenly feels a sharp pain, and looking at his hand, he sees melted armor and is surprised. That same evening, the young lady approaches the knights. One of them says that it is all their fault, because before escorting the young lady, it was necessary to carefully check whether the monsters were dead. The main character tells the knights not to blame themselves, because it was she who made a mistake by recklessly going there. At this time, another man comes out of the tent and says that the area of the wound is extensive, but he does not think that the gentleman was poisoned, and this is a great blessing. But at night his temperature may rise, so you need to call a nurse and apply a cold compress. Nadia says there is no need for a nurse, because she will be with him personally, after which the girl enters the room with the Duke. The guy asks if she is hurt, The main character says that she was a little scared, but otherwise everything is fine. But she claims that what is more important now is that Glenn suffered because of her. The Marquis says that snake monsters are tenacious, and even after the death of their bodies, they can remain alive. And it is their fault that they did not check him thoroughly. But the girl is not to blame for this, so she should not torment herself. The main character says that he even rushed to protect her without protective clothing. The girl argues that the Marquis needs to value his body a little more, since he is the head of the Winterfell family. The girl understands that he saved her despite the danger, and maybe in his eyes the young lady looks like she's grumbling, but she's just afraid for him. The young master claims that he is much more skilled than them in combat with magical beasts, and he also gave promises to his wife. The young lady, realizing that he has a knight's title, and maybe this is the mindset of knights. The girl was close to a couple of knights. Fabian had a younger brother vibe. Jiho was a trash who abandoned his fiancée for his career. So the girl realizes that she didn't notice their chivalrous thinking. After this, she turns to her husband and says that she wants to say something. When the young gentleman agrees, the girl says that he just sounded cool, and if she were a little more frivolous, she might have fallen in love with him. The guy's face immediately turns red from this, but then the main character says that, of course, she doesn't mean that she really fell in love with him, so he can rest assured. After which, the girl asks what is wrong with the Marquis's face, and he just turns around and wonders if the girl realizes what she just said. But the main character only says that it turns out she wasn't imagining things. She reaches her hand to his forehead, and she says that she was told that he could develop a fever because of the poison, and asks if that is really the reason. But then the young lady pulls away and says the boy's forehead is burning. After which she puts him back to bed. And he says that today it would be better for him to go to bed early, and he can trust her to take care of the sick person. The Marquis thinks that after she said such things, how can he calmly fall asleep right in front of her? But after a while, he falls asleep. Nadia puts her hand on his forehead. The girl says she was worried, but fortunately, the fever has gone down a lot. She remembers Glenn recently saying it wouldn't be dangerous, because he would protect her. The lady with brown hair thanks her husband for keeping his promise, and then she kisses him tenderly on the cheek. A short time after eliminating the monsters, the Winterfell punitive squad immediately returned, taking back the remains of the monsters with them. Now, the Marquis extends his hand to help the young lady off the map. The main character takes his hand, and when he goes out, he is surprised, because it is already snowing there. The young gentleman says that it is slowly starting to get colder. The girl realizes that so much time has passed since her arrival in Winterfell. The Marquis says, "By the way, didn't she say she wanted to make a snowman?" Then he approaches her and says that he thinks they will be able to do it soon. The main character says that this is indeed so. One of the wards smirks and says that these two now look like real spouses, and the other says that their method of winning the lady's heart worked. After which the main characters are met by the butler. He greets them. The Marquis says that Gordon has worked hard and asks if anything has happened in their absence. The butler says that nothing special has happened, and in his mind, he adds that this is except that his work has doubled due to the absence of the mistress. He then says that Wayne, who left the capital, has returned to their lands and said that he wishes to see the mistress. The main character says that then she will probably arrange their meeting. The girl thinks that he is just in time, and she has a request for him. After which, one man claims that most of the jewelry and art pieces were sold through auctions, and the total amount was 84,000 gold coins, excluding the auction hall fees, and they can look up the details in the books and documents. The Marquis says that he tried hard, and most likely it was hard to travel first to the capital and then back. The man answers that nothing of the sort, and that this is his job, because it is also profitable for him when the brokerage commission is higher than usual. The young lady then turns to Wayne and asks if he could visit the capital again. The man asks what she is talking about and if the girl has discovered another rare dragon. The young lady claims that this is not the case, and after the last attack of the monsters, they collected what was left of them, so she plans to create a special product from them and sell it. But for this process of work, several materials are needed. Wayne asks what she's talking about and if she's going to sell the monster scraps, since they're just waste that won't do any good anywhere. But Nadia only turns to her ward and asks him to fulfill her request. After which Wayne apologizes and says that he said too much. He thinks that the lady can be trusted because she always has a plan. And the girl only says that she is grateful for his work. So for this trip to the capital, she is thinking of raising his salary for services. The man says that he will be incredibly grateful to her. He understands that, as expected, she has well-developed diplomatic skills. Wayne tells the lady that he brought one little thing that he would like to give to her. The young lady says that it is not worth it, and I am ashamed even for the fact that she is sending him to the capital again, and here is a gift. But the man claims that this is his desire, and let her at least look once. Believe me, she will clearly like him. After which the servant opens the chest, and gold fabric is visible in it. The man claims that it is not easy to get it even for money, and this time he was very lucky. The main character looks at the gift and says that it is such a valuable thing. The girl understands that it is the silk that Karine could not get, which is why she tormented herself for it. Wayne only says that as soon as he saw him, he thought that he would suit my lady, so the man asks her to accept the gift as a sign of his favor to her. The main character wants to object to something, but the marquise comes up to her from behind and says that this silk can be used to make a dress for the ball, and he thinks that she will need it someday, so the young lady had better take it. Wayne agrees and says that a ball gown of fine silk will suit my lady perfectly, after which the man and the servant head off in a carriage. The guy with black hair says he is interested in something, and Wayne asks what it is. Then the youth speaks of the silk from the Golden Forest. The youth claims that he thought his mentor would give this thing to his lordship, or the elder lord, but he asks why he dedicated such a valuable thing to the lady. Well, after these words, he only gets a slap on the head. The man screams that he is a fool and asks what the guy is studying under his wing. The young man says that if he made some mistake, then he asks the teacher to let him know, and Wayne only asks who, in the young man's opinion, has the greatest power in these lands. The guy thinks for a moment and then says that, of course, the marquise comes first, the eldest gentleman comes second, and the lady comes third. Then the man says that this is wrong and the lady comes first. The boy asks what the teacher is talking about, and he claims that the head of the Winterfeld family is the marquise, but in fact it is she who makes the decision. Wayne says that the young man is a merchant, but he does not even have such savvy. Besides, the man had been watching the marquise since he was a child, but this was the first time he had such an expression on his face as today. The merchant realizes that their young master has fallen in love for once. The next day, the maids admire the silk from the Golden Forest. Looking at him, one of them says that she thought she would see something like this in her entire life, and the second says that he is very handsome. The main character says that the material is beautiful, but asks if it is too luxurious for her. After all, she did not even want to attack, so it is unlikely that it can be made into a ball gown for her. Risa then recalls something and says that recently, an invitation letter came from the royal family, as there will soon be a banquet in honor of His Majesty's birthday. So the maid asks, how about Togo sewing a dress for the occasion? The main character agrees and says that it will be wonderful. She thinks that she is not able to resist the royal order, so she will have to go to the capital in person for a while. But in that case, she will definitely have to see her family. The girl orders Risa to send a man to the tailor's and set a time this week. The maid obeys. The main character thinks that there is no need to worry too much, because she is no longer the Nadia from the past. Then she sighs and decides to continue the work she had put off, but her gaze suddenly falls on the egg. The girl turns to the maids. 3 maids immediately come closer to her and ask what happened. The main character claims that she is talking about a dragon egg and asks if there is a crack on it. The maids say that it looks like that, and when the crack begins to widen, one of the maids screams that the dragon is really hatching, and another maid screams for Milady to move away, because it could be dangerous. Upon learning this news, the Marquis immediately runs to his wife. He thinks he was reckless. After all, I didn't think at all that the dragon egg could actually hatch, and if something dangerous happened, Nadia could get hurt. He immediately bursts into the room and screams if the young lady is okay. The main character just calmly looks at him and asks if the guy has arrived. The young gentleman asks what is in her hands, and the main character holds a little dragon. The Marquis says that no matter how you look at it, it is a dragon's child. He asks if the egg has really hatched. The young lady hugs the newly hatched dragon and smiles sincerely. The main character asks Glenn if there are monsters that protect people. The guy claims that this happens very rarely, but usually the monster considers the creature with which it first meets the gaze after hatching to be its mother. The young lady smiles and says that this means that this little dragon takes her for his mother. She then turns to her husband and asks what to name this baby, and if Glenn has any idea. The young man says, why not just call him a dragon? Nadia refuses. She suggests omitting such names, because suddenly in the future, he will become a dragon guardian of these lands. The guy says that he doesn't even know whether he will become a guardian dragon or a disaster. It's all a matter of time. But when he reaches out to the dragon becomes wary. Glenn, alive, continues to speak and claims that since the baby is a dragon, he still has some signs of a monster. But the black baby only bites the Marcus on the hand, causing him to scream. The main character is surprised and asks if he is okay. The guy says that she cannot worry because he does not think that there is a wound left. The young lady looks at the dragon seriously and tells him to listen, and then asks how he can attack people, and says that if he behaves like that, she will not be able to raise him. The girl claims that she will have nothing to say if the rumors immediately kick him out of there for attacking their master. The kid just looks at the young lady with sad eyes. The head coach says that making such pretty eyes won't help. The Marquis is a little embarrassed. He thinks that everything about his wife seems sweet. But the young lady then turns to him and asks, "What about Noah?" And then she adds that this will be the name of this baby. A little while later, the main character is already walking around the garden and looking for her little dragon. The girl wonders where he disappeared to again, and, probably, he is interested in everything since the baby was born not so long ago. The first place the main character visits is the kitchen. One of the maids asks what business Milady has come for. The young lady says she thought Noah would be there. She had recently read a book about dragons, so she learned that young ones tend to think of enclosed spaces as safe, and they need to eat a lot to grow. So Nadia went into the kitchen, and suddenly she heard some rustling. It comes from the door and the cabinet, so the main character goes to it and opens it. And inside he sees a little dragon who is gobbling up cookies. The main character picks him up and says that he is such a brat, because the baby should have asked her for food if he was hungry. The dragon just looks at her innocently, and the lady with brown hair thinks how cute it is. The maid says that, by the way, the master also often looked there in his childhood. The young lady asks if it is true about the maids. He says that yes, and he did it in the midst of his growth. The boy grew every night, and even after eating, he remained hungry. So whenever he could find a convenient opportunity, he would always run to the kitchen. Nadia says it's amazing that such a cold-hearted Glenn had a period like that. She thinks he must have been so sweet. And then he says that the little dragon looks like Glenn, in response to which the baby only smiles. A little while later, the main character is sitting behind the documents. The Marquise claims that the baby has been wandering around lately, turning the entire mansion upside down, and asks if it is true. The young lady just smiles. She was constantly trying to find the missing Noah. One of the servants asked why Milady was there, but the girl was only looking for the baby. A little while later, the dragon hid again, and at this time, already in the garden. The gardener asked why Milady had come to such an untidy place. Now Nadia says that Noah is just very curious, and besides, he hasn't done anything serious yet, and he also listens to her well. The Marquise looks at these two and thinks that maybe the little dragon is simply doing what he listens to. But the thing is, he's a hindrance between him and Nadia. He puts the paper on the table and says he thinks he'll have to be separated from this baby for a while. The main character takes the sheet of paper and asks what it is, and the Marquis says that it is an invitation letter sent by the royal family. He believes that it is in honor of the king's birthday, and that they will need to prepare for moving to the capital. The young lady is not very happy about this news. She thinks that everything is as expected. Glenn asks if all her plans to create medicine from monster remains are still valid. Nadia says that of course it is, and even their effect has already been proven, so she plans to start trading in the capital. The girl asks if he still doesn't believe it, and her husband says that it's not that, and he's just a little worried, because as she knows, nobles don't often engage in trade, so such people are usually looked down upon. Nadia asks Glenn if he is worried that she will be neglected in the capital. She then thanks him for his concern, but says that she has everything planned out, so he should not worry because he will see and understand everything himself. The guy says that he will say, just in case, that if everything does not turn out as she expected, then he asks her not to torture herself, because in their family, no one will dare to blame her. The young lady agrees. She wonders if Glenn has really become so affectionate. She can't believe that this is the same person she saw when she first met him. She also asks her husband not to worry about her, and then looks at him, and she claims that they must continue to accumulate strength, because from now on, she decides to start taking active actions. That same evening, Jiho also receives a letter, a video of him smiling, because he will soon be able to see Nadia again.